The distance would just become longer.
It would change, right, because of the hill, yeah. The
Right? If something is a globe, how is it that there's no flat Earth navigational map?
As in all the maps show it, they attempt to replicate some sort of sphere shape. The maps aren't generally spherical, but they kind of have.
No, I mean directly in the context of travel. If I want to get from here
like
to
airline
London,
travel.
Any travel, airline, roads, every single travel, every single navigational attempt is accompanied with a globe Earth map. With distances that match up to a globe or a sphere.
Right. Okay, that's a good argument, yeah.
Like, it's like, where are the maps? It should be unequivocal, right?
Like, I think I bet if you went way back to, like, medieval times, you would be able to find maps of localized areas that...
And that's my argument, is that the brain itself has evolved to see the local environment, which is flat, because the truncation error of the big sphere is so tiny.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to see the curve with our naked eye.
Everything
not
here,
from the Earth, anyway.
Exactly. That's why everything here is kind of linear. I mean, minus everything is.
We accept that this room is a box.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and the sea is flat. Really, when you look at the sea, it's pretty like it's like you go down to the bottom. Yeah. If you could go to the edge and watch, it's just straight flat. But because. Right, because,
as far as we're concerned with creatures, it is flat. Like we shouldn't need to know more than that as biological beings, right? So that's all our biology is capable of giving us.
Which is the proof that the Earth, from that perspective, actually is flat.
From that perspective, yeah.
From that perspective, because it doesn't doesn't matter at all.
What are you gonna get, like, as a
out
caveman?
of knowing what it doesn't, and it is mathematical for most of us. And from the pictures, none of us flew out there and looked at it.
No.
So it is theoretical in your head, and right, like
it is theoretical, which is why when I approached the argument initially, I approached it with an open mind, and I said to myself, "I'm going to listen to what these people have to say."
Exactly, yeah.
It goes against everything I believe, but I'm going to give it a chance. But and they do make excellent arguments, like the matrix of perception, for example.
I haven't dug deep.
Oh, you haven't?
Because once I realized this. Yeah. Then I'm like, I'm not gonna go down that road because I'm pursuing what the actual picture is.
I listened to a long debate on it, so I heard some guy make all his best arguments.
So give me the best argument that you're like, holy yes.
Probably, okay, this is the one that stuck with me. I don't know if it was the best one he made, but I heard this like 7 years ago. But anyway, he talked about the matrix of perception and how you're always going to see a horizon. You're always going to see a ship's mast get shorter and shorter as it goes away. Mm-hmm. That's not you witnessing the curvature of the Earth. That is simply the way your biology works, the way vision works. Sure. There is a horizon. As something gets farther away, it's going to, it's just going to look like that, right?
But that's not proof for either or the other.
It's not proof.
One or the other.
But what it is, and the reason it stuck with me, is because most people, when they argue, like most laymen, when they argue for the round Earth, their best understanding of why the Earth is round is a falsehood. It's a false argument that they're making. So when he dismantled the argument that you see the ship's mast go down, that means
sure.
Correct. That's a false argument. Mm-hmm. The Earth is round.
Right.
But that is
not the
false
argument for it. Yeah.
The argument's just faulty.
That's excellent. Yeah.
So that's why I said to myself, okay, I respect, him making a great argument for something that is false, and I'm going to listen to it.
Another one that kind of discredits it for me is the. And I want to only spend so much time on this because
this is not my main topic of interest. We don't disagree on this.
But if this is the whatever shape but non-spherical the flat thing is, the sun is doing some kind of an 8 shape like this or something, right? And I'm thinking,
is that what they say? A figure 8.
It's something. It's because it's never going under. It's always above. So it never sinks. It's perspective, which doesn't make sense because it would just get tinier. But then I realized even then, nighttime comes by photons deciding at some point, okay, we've reached our line. We can't keep flying anymore. And now it's dark time because the sun's too far away from wherever we're supposed to shine to.
Okay, you said you hadn't dug deep. You've dug deep.
No, I've taken on a couple of bullshit right there. I've taken on a couple of arguments, but yeah, I've taken on a few. Once I see it, I probed a few of them, and once I personally, you have to personally debunk it.
Okay.
Like you have to look at it and find your own way, which you clearly, that's why you're here. Dawson, everyone, welcome. Once you decide to look at it yourself, are you able to discern it yourself? Like, how do you know whether...
Right, as in, you're finding the truth for yourself. It's no longer a faith-based belief. It is, you know it because you have the primacy of direct experience, which trumps all other things.
But that is if you think that you're right. Unless you, like, is your way of thinking such that you can know for certain that your way of thinking is the correct one?
The way I look at it is it can be me evaluating whether one of the myriad of possible truths is true or not.
Okay.
Or I can evaluate my own whether it's true or not.
Yes.
I'll take the devil I know.
That's the best argument, right? So from there on, all of them follow that. And here's what I'm thinking of doing today. If I can, let's just dive straight into it.
All right.
Unless you have some stuff to say.
No. Let's go with the flow. Let's keep it rolling.
I'm because it ties perfectly into the concept of what our world is to begin with, right? And the way I wanted to introduce it is like this. If we were to look at the Earth and want to figure out and categorize biological life, okay? You can do it many different ways. You can do it by color. Oh, these animals here, or this life is, green, and that's the categorization. The one that has really come through properly is the genetic one, right? Because there's this whole world in there, right? That we have managed to track and then splice the genome, and as a result, create a whole classified tree of life, right? Now, what I'd like to do, and I think you're the right guy, the right person to be able to tackle this adventure.
Oh, let's hear it.
Which is to approach the Earth in the same way, but instead of using genetic classification, we use a mimetic classification, which I have a good working picture in my mind of. So I'd like to do this. I'd like to step into the world and say, okay, all the societies with people in them that exist, the way they function, and we can choose some of the main drivers. It could be financial, which is the one I think I'd like to do with you to start with.
Okay.
And it seems that the financial one also usually piggybacks or they all travel together with the religious ones, as well as, I guess, what's the word? Government. I don't know where government is with the first one, right? Like with a financial is just financial. That's the money. And there's the government, and then there is the religion, right? And if
at one point, for example, the American government was printing its own money before the establishment of the Federal Reserve in 1913. So.
Okay. So, right. So, no, but that means they go hand in hand, right?
I think there's a lot of nuance to this discussion. Yeah,
right.
We could dig into that once you get your general overview.
Right. This is why it's such a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to start with the whole planet, right? And I'd like to, first of all, before we even go there, we've kind of discussed the flat Earth element. Let's just put that aside.
Yeah, we're going to accept that it's round for now.
Let's go with that premise. And even earlier, you were saying that you were in the world of conspiracy, and that's another thing I'd like to see if we can navigate to correct the lingo on, and that is that there is conspiracies that actually just don't check out really. They just seem to be just not true. It's just
there's more that aren't true than that are true.
A good way to put it. Yeah. And then there's the stuff that is kind of established that is true, obvious. There's roads outside. That's obviously true, right? Like anything that's like we know it's true. Yeah. And then there's that in between.
I thought you were going to start somewhere way farther down.
No.
Roads. That's a very safe.
easy, low picking for example. But and I think that where I'd like to go digging, and I'd say the first one is the conspiracies. Those are the actual conspiracies, and I think that flat Earth is simply a conspiracy theory. It's a distraction to me. I don't pay attention to it just because to me there's other more important rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Personally,
I don't care what fucking shape it is. I care more about what's happening on it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's precisely right. And then similarly, to talk about parallel universes and forces that we haven't really tracked down, and for me, that's another thing I would like to put aside, even though that's
a huge topic.
Right. So that's another question that I would have asked of like, what's your thoughts on? But I'd rather come on to Earth.
Yeah.
and look at the countries, look at the society.
Yeah, let's take a page out of Mark Passio's book tonight and focus on what on earth is happening.
I don't know the author.
Somebody's gonna know.
Okay, good. I'll be laughing, you know?
Yeah.
So now here's a question. We've got, let's start from Europe.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Western Europe, sorry, Eurasia, not Europe, Eurasia.
Okay.
We've got the Western Eurasia, and we've got the Eastern Eurasia, generally speaking.
Okay.
Right? And the Eastern Eurasia is divided into like the Ruski land and the Chinese world. Right? Those are two.
Right,
I'm trying
right.
to, if I was to classify living life, this is where I'm going with it. Living life, because you know how they have the kingdoms and they have the, whatever, stratums and then until it comes to the, you know, the actual, there's like so many levels of classification. Animal kingdom.
Oh, okay. In terms of biology.
In terms of biology. Similarly here, I want to recognize, like, for example, China is a completely devoid, in terms of social media, even internet. They have their own apps. It's like a self-contained organism, societal organism. And my question, and this is where I want to hear your opinion, is to which degree are they actually independent? Because I'm wanting to dig for the deep states.
To what degree is China independent?
Well, let's say Eurasia before we go into the other places.
Okay.
Right? Like, is it all just one entity?
At the highest level, in my personal opinion, at the very, very highest level, basically, yes, that is my opinion. At the very, very highest level. And I know that there are serious conflicts between various powers in, you know, Eurasia and even outside of that. However, I do think that is mostly a racket and a spectacle.
All right, because from that perspective, that would basically make the entire Earth like one big chessboard.
Yes, exactly. That's a great way to think. That's actually how they think of it.
Right, because they have, for them, oh, he's taking my Donbass area or whatever, right? Okay, I need to eat his horse, you know? Like, you know, he's sacrificing his this and the other.
I think it's a good way to envision it is, you know, it is a chessboard and there may be multiple players playing this game of chess, but they're quite good friends.
Fair enough. But let's say friends or not friends, I'd like to still...
like, it's the pawns who lose. The queen and the king are staying alive, right? Like,
but are their coffers connected?
Are their coffers connected?
Is it so the World Bank, for example? Where does the World Bank operate? In which jurisdictions? The entire thing?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the specifics to give like good commentary on that specifically. But what I do know is that, you know, the Western world, for the most part, has its banking system. The Eastern world, for the most part, has its banking system. That's my general understanding. I know there are different individual banks.
So this is where I'm aiming, is that my understanding is just like they have their own social media and their own worlds. Like, you never hear about stuff that goes on in China, really. It's a whole entertainment industry and probably to a large degree the law system with their banking system. And I think that where I've ended up with, and I want to build this with you, with whatever you know, and you can correct me where you think I might be wrong in trying to build this picture. And I think that the Western Eurasia with America right now is what the general population these days would call globalists.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, they certainly, I wouldn't argue that, but let's hear about the Eastern.
So now one element that I'll throw right away, and living in Vancouver, you see the influx of Asia in the monetary way, especially. Incredible influx.
Well, yeah, that started before I was born, yeah.
Okay, right? So for me, I'm almost at the thought that if it is one big uni-party across the globe, that baton has been passed on to China right now, and that China is just basically running. We're all slow to adopt or adapt, if you will.
I don't personally see it that way.
Okay, so that's, I'm not making that claim, but it seems like it's becoming a big cash cow with the whole BRICS. So, and that's the thing between BRICS and the UN or NATO or whatever you want to call them. And I think that, anyways, send me thoughts, but I want to build from there, and then I want to isolate who is who. Like, actually, here's another quick one that I was going to tell you about. And feel free to open. Yeah, you're good.
Oh yeah, I'm already started.
Awesome.
I've got one for you too.
No, I'm gonna just get on it. I watched this. There was this movie that came down to Rio recently that was made by, I guess, Yugoslavia, if you will, because I'm not sure who the director was, but I think the director had funding from the King of England, which is
interesting.
Because there was an entire division of Serbs. This is Second World War. They were for the King of England and for a kingdom, and to essentially run the Austro-Hungarian style Western civilization, to be part of that, right? Then there was the partisans who won the war because Germany lost, but so did the King's men. They lost as well from the people who took on the communism, socialism, right? And the movie that was playing had a father who had three sons. One was neutral, one was for the partisans, and one was for the king, right? And then all of a sudden, was it the English flew in for a meeting, and they saw how they were like killing each other amongst themselves and said, "But the Germans are coming, right? So why are you guys fighting against each other? You should be just fighting the Germans together because you're all Serbs." But they were divided already between, ironically, the Brits as well as the Soviets on the Eastern Front. So that was where the pushing was happening, and then there was Germany who was trying to break that apart. And it was very interesting to see that because I'd never seen it from that angle, because the propaganda when I grew up in Yugoslavia was that, the partisans won and it's now the best thing, socialism, we live in it.
Yeah, I know nothing about the part of the world you grew up in. That's
right?
Probably my blank spot, yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, so my perspective on this is so much less informed.
So tell me who's running the show then?
My understanding, and I say this fully knowing that it is conjecture and that, this is just my best understanding of it as it stands. I mean, first of all, what is really going on is deliberately very difficult to discern, and there's a million red herrings you can follow, and pretty much everyone is following one, is my opinion. Okay. Like, it really, it's almost impossible to figure out what the fuck is going on, and the only popular researchers I know who I have any level of confidence in the truth movement today are Mark Passio and James Corbett. And anyone else, I take everything they say with a huge fucking grain of salt, because I see them getting sucked into just what to me are kind of obvious traps, the way I see it. Okay, let me circle back to your question a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I think,
from many angles.
I think that the people who run the world are unified in their ideology more than anything. I don't think it has anything to do with race, nationality, or anything like that, or even religion as we know it. I mean, the religions of the world, as I see it, are for us, not for them type thing, right? Like, they follow what Mark Passio would call the old religion. Some people might call it Satanism, This is a kind of one way that I think about it sometimes is that the presidents of every country or the ruling powers of every country are sort of like farmers, and they all kind of get along and they all trade and, they put on nice little spectacles for us, but really the civilians are being farmed all along. And that's what I think is important to focus on. So all this to say, I don't know exactly, name by name who controls the world. Like, I could throw out lots of names. They would mostly be from my area of research, so like the Western world for the most part,
right?
But that wouldn't really do much good. Like, obviously we know about things like the Bilderberg meeting, and right. We know about things like the CFR and the Trilateral Commission and the Federal Reserve, and maybe some people know about Cecil Rhodes' Round Table Society, and James Corbett is the one who made me wise to this with his documentary The World War I Conspiracy. Excellent documentary.
Okay.
But it basically talks about how these British leaders of industry in the early 1900s, and by the way, Lord Rothschild was a part of this Roundtable Society. And it was with these people, to my understanding, that the Balfour Declaration was thought up and, eventually signed. and the establishment of the Federal Reserve is also linked to this group, as far as I understand it. Cecil Rhodes died. Alfred Milner, who was in that society, continued his work.
Okay.
Had contact with a man named Colonel House, who influenced Woodrow Wilson to sign the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. And without that, America would have never entered World War I. They certainly wouldn't have been able to lend all this money, but once they had a central bank that was completely given control of printing the country's money supply, then they could lend as much money to fund the war effort in Europe as they had to, and it was very.
So why do they have to? Why get involved with wars in
Well, the
Europe?
Americans didn't want to get involved in the war, right? But there are certain things that the people pulling the strings, I would argue Cecil Rhodes' Round Table Society, did to draw America into the war. One of them was the sinking of the Lusitania. I mean, to my understanding, that ship, from the American side, they thought it was just like a passenger liner. At least that's what the civilians thought, and that's what most people would know. But it was actually carrying arms, which made it a military target. And it went predictably to an area where it would be sunk if it was carrying arms. And of course, the other side had intelligence that it was. So it was sunk and a bunch of Americans died.
So
it's a British passenger liner.
So basically, what is it called? The American banking system, let's call it, for the last 100+ years has been inciting world wars.
Yeah, I would say so. I would go farther and say the people behind it are the ones inciting the wars, and the banking system is a tool they created in order to make that work.
But the nucleus of where these world wars are starting from are coming from North America, or are they just kind of like the execution?
I'm not convinced of that. Like I said, I think the people that control the world are beyond nations and beyond ethnicity. I think that these people are united in their ideology. They meet at certain places at certain points, like the Bilderberg meeting, and there's probably people that we don't know. I mean, certainly there are people that we don't know about that are involved in this. I'm sure of that.
So here's how I would construct that from what I was starting, is that, and this is how I calculated what I'm about to talk about, is that, the whole Dunbar's number, right?
Say again?
The Dunbar number for the size of how big the tribe gets before it splits into two.
No, I don't actually.
It's a nice little term. It's like from evolutionary biology world, and so there's a certain size that it can hold until not everybody knows everybody. And usually they're like 50 to 70, and then after that 100 to 100. So this one guy estimated to be tops like 150. And companies, once they become too big, they'll split. If they're 200, they'll split, right? Like a cell. It's very, very similar. But in any case, the part that humans got really good with, because we're hierarchical creatures, is that we were able to take 150 tribes and create a little governing circle of 150 people who can know each other and be in their little tribe. And then you can do that. You can keep doing that upward until you reach the global system. And I think we're at that, considering that we have all the AI, internet to just communicate globally. All they need to do is exactly what you're saying. And how many countries in the world? 189, is it? That's just over the Dunbar's number. So each one of those, and that's WHO, right? That, to me, what you're talking about, the way I translate it, right, is that there is a head office, like Bill Gates said, now that they've made gazillions from the 2020 debacles, right? He was saying that they were going to create a governing system, a health office of about 3,000 to 4,000. So it's a bit bigger than a Dunbar's number, right? But it's still that's a small number of people that would decide on what to do with future pandemics.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to do that.
No, I think they might have already done it. I haven't been following it, but I remember when I was hearing it. So what I'm trying to figure out is that what are the entities underneath that they represent, and how do they group? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The entities underneath that they represent is, and what are like the main entities we could look to that are obvious?
So, for example, on a religious basis, there's the Russian Orthodox Christian world that ties in with the Serbs who are Orthodox. Okay. Then you have the Southern Muslim world, right? Then you have the India that has the most people. That's like 2 billion people just there. Yeah. All Hindus, right?
Well, that's there's ton of different religions in
right?
India.
So, and then you have China, which is, and so I think that's in terms of big pieces. There's the Orthodox Chinese. What is their religion?
See, I don't know. I don't really know what I've been wondering about this. It seems to be mostly Confucianism. I mean, it's like the philosophy. Do they even have a religion? They would say Buddhism probably, but
everyone says communism. But then I'm
that's
like,
not a religion. Oh well,
but it is. It is. And then who is it? And that's and then you have the Middle Easterners who are the Judeo world, right? The Jewish world. Mm-hmm. But the only difference with that is because the Judeo world hasn't had a country. They're everywhere. Sort of
diaspora,
like,
yeah.
But that's sort of what happened with Serbia since the world in the 90s. I'm one of the diaspora right now, right?
Yeah. And the Jews have been wandering the earth for what, 2,000, 3,000 years? Like a long time.
So they are the peoples who have their own, because they have their own governing system of their own, whether through they organize themselves, let's say, right?
Well,
just like Serbs organize themselves in Bernard.
Are you talking about within Israel specifically?
No. Across the world.
Okay, because Jews across the world, like, I mean, being a Jew myself who's not at all subscribing to any religion, as I believe religion is designed to hold humanity back from the truth. You know, religion coming from religare to hold back. Right. This is what I believe. But what I would say about that is that Jews... You cannot find a more diverse group of people in terms of thought and belief, right? Like Jews, even if you were to take like the majority, like 50-50, try to slice them down the middle, you would find two groups of people that vehemently disagree with each other on pretty much fucking everything.
Within the same lot.
Well, no, not like within the same localized community. Like, for example, like the Hasidic community in New York is going to.
But that's Christianity, Orthodox Christianity versus Catholic Christianity.
Well, they definitely have disagreements. I would say with the Jews, it goes farther because Judaism isn't just a religion; it's an ethnicity, and the majority of Jews in the Western world, to my knowledge, are atheist or agnostic. They're non-religious, so they don't even believe in God, right? Like. Their disagreements with the other half of Jews could not be more... Like, we're talking morality different. Like, on one hand, the Jews are like...
Oh, yeah.
Homosexuality is completely wrong. It's against God. On the other hand, they're like gay rights activists. Like, that's how fucking different they are. So...
No, of course. Because I've even been in some of the gatherings and kind of events that happen. And a lot of... And one of them was, I think, pretty like... The organizers are for sure Jewish, but they went for the earth and the mother and the sand, and they had like candles, and it was totally, you'd say, one would call it paganistic, as in just to go to the earth.
That's
right?
A very atypical Jew, yeah.
But would that be drawn from is that any of it from the Jewish world at all, or is it just kind of a new thing once you kind of leave that behind and kind of want to, because something needs to, I'm convinced that people kind of need to have a religion.
They should, in a way. I mean, okay, not a religion. I shouldn't say they should have a religion. When I say they should, what I mean is that people need to have some sort of basis for their morality.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's call it that. Because that's what I'm concerned about, right? Because we can talk about the other aspects that have to do with personal fulfillment and all this jazz, right? There's a whole journey for everyone here, but the part that is of the biggest concern to me, and it should be for everyone, is morality, because that dictates whether I'm going to be safe next to my neighbor or not, right? Like, that dictates whether we can all get along or not, right? So morality, some justification for that. God is a pretty solid one. I do believe in God, personally.
Like a real God.
I believe in a force of creation that is more powerful than any human.
From that angle, yeah, that's a great definition.
Yeah. Because of this, I don't subscribe to any religion or any of this, and I don't want to let them try to suck me in, right? Because it would be tempting, right? There are so many things I agree with, like, you know.
Would it be fair to name the concept of God from that angle as just like moving energy? Unstoppable moving energy that is just tinkering and creating stuff.
You know, we personify things so the human mind can understand it, right? Like, this is an angle I approach it from, because
That's
maybe
true.
you could say it that way, but it doesn't really get through what it actually is as well as personifying it kind of like God. Not to say old white man with a beard, but at least get it down to a noun, so my mind
So
can
what
wrap
noun
its
would you
head
put?
around it.
What would you, if you were to give it a noun?
If I were to just say one thing, I'd just say God, right? Because that's what most of humanity has understood it as all these years. And my belief is close enough to that I feel the word is justified. People have all different sorts of opinions about what God is, right? I'm just another one of those guys,
Well, same here. Like I've just like I'm trying to compartmentalize the financial buckets. I've done that with God itself, and that is the three levels of emergence. One being the matter, just the sheer atoms, that rocks and whatnot that kind of float around.
Yeah, physical world. Yeah.
The physical world, the stuff that physics deals with.
Yeah.
And then out of that emerged the world of biology, which is this is my holy trinity, by the way.
Interesting.
It's matter and then biology.
Does the order matter?
That's because matter emerged out of biology emerged out of matter.
Okay.
Right? If there's no matter, there's no biology, but not vice versa. You can kill biology, matter will still be there. And then out of biology emerged the third one, which is the invisible one, which is the communication, the nervous system world, where we communicate back and forth.
Interesting. Okay, so this is a very materialistic view then.
Well, it's not necessarily like the world of culture. This is why I'm outsourcing parallel universes, because there's so much to work with, and I'm happy to involve the parallel universes in whichever way it connects.
Now, I would totally have that discussion, but I should warn you, I don't believe in parallel universes.
Me neither.
In the physical world.
But sure, but that's within your. This is within your neurological system.
Yeah, that's my best guess as a fleshy blood sac. Yeah.
Would you agree on that, though? Would you say that all the paranormal and different lifetimes and different I don't know, even if you did some crazy hero's journeys and you went places and it felt more real than here, would you say that any of that happened outside of your nervous system or your body?
Oh yeah.
Like you go to another astral field or whatever.
I think
you go
in a
to
sense,
another actual universe.
Well, I wouldn't say another universe, because I don't believe in parallel universes, and I think the word universe has a presupposition that there is only one, hence the prefix uni. So I don't like the whole parallel universe thing, I'll be honest. Because in the quantum reality, sure, you can say that, because you could think of any possibility, you can call those parallel universes. When the ping pong ball comes and I'm trying to decide which slice I want to do, there are those two parallel universes, but only one becomes reality.
No, fair enough. My stance on the materialistic outview of the entire picture of God, let's call it, would be prefaced, let's call it, on the idea that the cutoff for me is that without being convinced that there is any other place outside of our nervous or body system, that it all just happens within our complex neurology. That our neurology is so evolved in itself to a point where, especially with the help of these extra, let's say psychedelics, for example, right? That's just an enhancer of whatever the process is. But the process is within itself, for me, just seems to be just happening and for me, there's nothing that diminishes the grandiose subjective experience that one has. That's not in any way diminished with the premise that I think that it just simply happens within my nervous system.
Well, some people would argue differently. I mean, certainly there are people who would argue what you're arguing. I think Sam Harris is one of them. He believes, pretty much a materialist that believes that it is all happening inside your nervous system.
Well, I'm happy, just like before Nikola Tesla and Edison and all these guys who's the first one. I mean, everyone knew that electricity happens here and there.
James Newcomen? I don't know. He made the steam engine.
Steam engine, I guess I meant more like when they started tinkering with electrons, right? Okay. Like if someone said before their time that there would be a way to, transmit messages through air, They'll be like, well, that doesn't
I
exist.
mean, I've heard of something called the Babylon Battery. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but
I'm totally willing to be convinced that there's been incredible achievements and things that were created.
I think that a
before
lot
that.
of knowledge was lost.
Oh, 100%. I totally am. I'm sold on that. I see that as beyond plausible. Where I'm going with this is that I'm actually not denying the possibility that there is another astral field of sorts that we actually tap into and go outside of this world and outside of our body. I'm totally okay to say that that's plausible, just as much someone would have said it's plausible to send messages 500 years ago, right? All I'm saying is that until it's shown that that is the case, for me, it's kind of like the flat earth thing. It just doesn't make a difference because most of my life is in this physical world with my internal stuff going on at the same time. And that thing is here or there. It doesn't matter. I'm dealing with it in the real
you know,
world.
and ultimately I agree with you. You know, I like exploring these topics for the sake of my own curiosity, but I do think that in the grand scheme of things, we got a lot of problems on this earth right now.
That's my
and there are some very important things that the vast overwhelming majority of humans on this planet do not understand that they need to understand.
Right.
Or else they will fall for obvious traps. Right. Like what happened in 2020.
Right. So here's can I on that note, I want to talk about what's happening in our world, right? Because I have a feeling that you have a lot to say about that. But here I want to describe to you because Jay and I went to check out the Pride Parade when it happened a couple of months ago. Yeah, just to do some scouting as well. And,
for some scouting.
But I actually went there primarily because I was curious to see what.
I think a lot of people there are feeling curious. Okay, sir, I'm going to stop. I'm going to let you get to your story now.
It's no. Feel free to. But I mean, I was surprised by the entire thing, and here's my take on the Uni Party. And I think, and then you can see if you can tie around this. If I'm wrong on this one, if you can just nitpick.
Talking about the Uni Party is in, whole globe type.
The whole globe.
Okay.
But the way, let's call it the way that it's expressing itself in the West. Because, you have different chess pieces, and they're all different. Russians are different from the Westerners. So they have to mold and fold the social structure to adapt to the type of people that are in those places of the world.
Right,
but they're all being played, let's say.
There are certainly different propaganda down there than over here.
Of course, but regardless, the big bosses are like, okay, I'll give you this, you give me that. They're still negotiating, and then there's, real life consequences. But regardless of that, hang on, where was I?
Are you talking about Pride Parade?
Thank you. So for me, it's sort of like when we went to Italy, and we were sitting just in the restaurants, and all of a sudden there'd be a procession with a big cross and just somber people with just robes, about like 300 of them. We're just gonna pass through the streets.
Okay. Crazy.
And then there'll be chanting, and it would be like a religious Catholic, like deep Catholic religion,
That's super cool.
It is, but you see how that's the entity that represents that world, that runs things under. Like it's involved. And that to me, I've come to realize, this is where I'm going with it, is what to me the Pride Parade really represents.
Interesting.
But here, tell me, hear me out on this.
No, I'm hearing you out. It's just a cool angle. I got them all.
I was surprised because I think what's happened is that and this goes for any movement. Anyone who creates a movement in the name of some kind of need, let's call it, can be, if it becomes too big. This is why if it goes above 150, if it goes above Dunbar, it now has another governing entity above itself, right? That can get corrupted. And while everyone here believes that bosses are running the show, they're scheming whatever they want to scheme. And once that becomes orders, right, like bigger, it goes from city to a province to a country, and then to a continent, and then global, right? So there's like 5 or 6 levels of, right? But in any case, this one to me is on a global level type of event. The entire thing was, to me, just absolutely, I don't know what the word to use. First of all, you cross Burrard Bridge and there was like barricades. I'm talking like concrete, about like 50 of them lined up around to block, and then like military with like
really
guns, like just, and I'm like Like, what?
Are you serious? With guns and everything?
Guns and everything, right? Like, and I'm like, whoa, like, this must be pretty important. I already knew to kind of like look at it from, because I went there to do my research. I wanted to see, because I used to go to Pride parades. It's a whole lot of fun. Like, it's like people partying.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that the fact that it got co-opted by this big entity. And now that's the parade. Just like they back in Yugoslavia days, they would have they would have big parades, and they would do the batons, and everyone would come and watch. Okay. And it was one of those. First of all, so let's say in the hour that we were there, walking against the current, let's say about 15, I'd say, big groups passed. The first 6 or 7, I would say, were the big corporations. People from, not even, this has nothing to do with LGBT.
We're talking like RBC, like...
RBC, ICBC. Then there was like some union thing.
Hey guys, we're hip with the kids.
Right? Well, that's down the line. So, but it was, so that right off the top was kind of like, I'm like, what? Like, where's what is this? It was a big sponsorship advertisement. For the first, and it's the people who are virtue signaling, like, we're here to support this, right? Then after that was, hang on, let me remember. Then it was the flags. That's right. About 100 flags from all over the country. And I noticed, right, there was a Palestinian flag. It was the only 2 flags that were not there. I couldn't find them.
I'm going to guess an Israeli flag is one of them.
And the other one?
Oh, fuck. Oh, man. Russia.
No. I don't, maybe not, but it was Canadian.
Oh, really? Oh, well, okay. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm just thinking of what are the 2 things that the left is against globally right now? Russia and Israel. So.
Right. But what's interesting to me is that I actually see all these things as distractions from what's going on, right? Because, right. So for me, I think that the entity, which seems to be run by the non-mentioned flags, it's almost like the leaders are not putting their own flags in there, right?
That's an interesting way to think about it.
So here's another angle.
I don't think that's the case though, because Israel has a huge pride movement. It's just the one in the West that has, because it's unified with the left here in the West. So, I mean, there's a lot of contradictions on the left.
Oh yeah, how does
like
that
the
work?
fact that Israel is the only country in the Middle East that supports the movement.
But hang on, isn't Israel right wing?
No, not really. I mean,
why do they call them right wing? The government system. Why?
The left's opinion of Israel is a very contradictory one. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense because as far as I understand, Israel kind of like the world of Judaism overall. Because keep in mind, Israel extended the invitation to Jews from all over the world to come in there. So there's a mix of beliefs in there. Like not everyone in Israel is a religious Jew who believes or even has read the Talmud or anything like that, right? Like, I mean, this is just my knowledge. I could be wrong. I know some people that have family in Israel. I had a friend that was in the IDF for 2 years, so I know a little. Just I have never been there, so I can't say too much.
My take is that the Uni Party has 2 arms. One arm, I'm trying to put I've been trying to piece. This is another thing I was going to mention too. One arm runs the kind of the right wing stuff. Right, the right arm just won in down south in the U.S. Right, and now and when
entire U.S. is
what's that?
Entire U.S. is under Trump now,
right? So when the right arm wins, then the Judeo world starts to do good against the world of Islam. Right,
militarily,
sure, but
not in any other way.
Okay, fair enough. But what I mean is, and then those people have their way of fighting the left arm. It's like the left, the true globalists. If we were to take the premise that it is one big club at the top.
Yeah, 2 wings of the same bird type deal.
And then when the left wins, then they go against the Russians. Right? And Ukraine and all that. So it's almost like, okay, now, and it's the same money, and they're just juggling it back and forth and playing out
as long as there's a war and they can sell their arms, they're happy.
Exactly.
As long as people are dying and blood is soaking the earth. This is why they call it the old religion. I mean, this is a religion that predates any Judeo-Christian religion, Buddhism, or anything else. This is about soaking the earth.
No, I don't know about this.
I mean, this is what Mark Passio would say, to my understanding, right, of his work, is that these are essentially the people that have been ruling the earth since the dawn of human civilization. There's nothing new under the sun, as he would say. It's just revolution after revolution, round and round, different skin every time. But we have been... I mean, I would have to go way back and talk about what I think humanity is, you know? Like, what right. Not who we are, but what I think we are. Like, I believe personally, and, you know... If any of my coworkers see this, you already know I'm weird. Just listen on with everyone else. I believe that humanity is a slave race that was genetically modified from an original being to be a slave race. I think that...
To whom?
Well, some people might call them... This is where you get into pure conjecture, and I don't even want to say that This is pure conjecture, what I'm about to say, right? To whom? Fuck if I know, man. That all happened tens of thousands of years ago. But what I understand about it is... This is an alien race who came here to strip our planet of gold. This is my understanding of it. This is why the ancient world is littered with mines and why gold is the rarest material on Earth. It's all been mined out.
Huh.
And humanity was only ever supposed to be, you know, smart enough to get the job done, right?
Huh.
Not really meant to rule ourselves, never have ruled ourselves.
Get the job done, what, to schlep the gold off?
Yeah, exactly. You know, to run the mines, to fucking run their little societies, go in and do their work, and, you know, eventually...
And then, hang on, so the aliens, whatever they are, they disappeared, but humanity continued to live a subservient way to themselves?
Many people would say that those aliens, many of them mated with humanity, and these bloodlines have higher percentage of that. These are the ruling bloodlines, and, you know, these are the pharaohs, these are the kings. That's what people who subscribe to interference theory would say.
Interference as in... Now, and these people are amongst us. Is this the reptilian world?
Well, now, see, this kind of does tie into that. This is...
It's technically along in the same vein.
I don't want to claim to know what reptilian people believe because I haven't talked to many of them, but what I believe and how I understand this theory ties into it is that, you know, these beings, their skin... looks somewhat like the skin on our elbow.
Oh, that's
you know, it's not reptilian, right? It's just a little bit different from ours in the direction of a reptile.
Sure.
And some bloodlines have a higher percentage of this DNA. Obviously, it's been a long, long time, and these people are most likely 99.9% human, right? But they just have a little more of that God, you know, lowercase g, DNA.
As in they proclaim themselves God.
Back in the day, they did, is my understanding of it.
Like, would there be an example of that one of them living today somewhere that we know of?
There's no one that I probably would have said the Queen of England because I was pretty certain of that. No shade to anybody who loves her.
Why?
Well, because she's like the oldest ruling monarch in the world of the fucking once biggest empire in the world.
So the claim is that this...
She's dead.
So how is it that the very let's call them humans? They're also humans.
Let's call them humans.
They are humans. They cannot not be.
Yeah, I mean they're humans.
We share most of genetic code. They're like they're different breed, different race. Different race.
I mean, like, is a husky and a wolf or a dog? I don't know, right? Like,
well, but skin color, like the darker color from the it's just how much melanin or whatever you have.
Yeah.
Right? And it's similarly here, how much the proteins that are made to create your skin are conjecturating.
I mean, I think it's totally fair to call them human because humans, to my understanding, are a product of genetic experimentation. We are half something off-world, half something on-world.
Yeah.
Right? So to call them human is perfectly fine, but I do think that there is some difference between them and us, potentially, you know? I don't 100% know that to be a fact, but what I do know is that... I mean, these families are very powerful. Like, I don't think monarchs got into that position.
But don't you think that they're so powerful and have all that power, they would not want their own kind to proliferate and multiply and be everywhere as much as possible? Why would the most powerful humans in the world allow for them not to even exist amongst the humans?
What do you mean?
Well, like, I would say that if a certain race was able to control the whole world, right, or influence it, they would for sure want their own race to be very predominant in the world.
My understanding of it is like
to have them have babies.
Like I'm not even I'm not even talking about a race, and I shouldn't even talk too much about this bloodline stuff because I don't know enough about it, and I'm not even 100% convinced of it. But my suspicion is that, I mean, if we're going back to the Pharaoh days, that these people who proclaimed themselves to be gods did have a higher percentage of alien DNA, and that a tiny amount of it trickled down to some bloodlines in the modern age. And it's not something that I'm well researched in, though. So
because for me, like I'm yet again, like what my aim has been predominantly is to track the entities which, once we figure them out, will give us high benefits in our direct world.
Now, I'm going to come back with a totally different angle, but I'm going to let you finish.
Sure, yeah, don't forget. Yeah. But the idea is that it's kind of like with the flat earth, or how much am I allowing for something like that to occupy my mental space? Because I could be focusing on something else, like what bills are they passing these days, or anything else. And for that matter, if there is a narrative that talks about any kind of an alien whatever, or as I said, whether we leave for an astral field and come back in our sleep or not, it doesn't. To me, the big meat of life and attendance is in the real world. And how can the outside of the real worlds help me in the real world, or is that not like why? Or is the whole point of just being in the world of talking about the, say, flat Earth, right? Because it doesn't make any difference about when you start traveling and you take the map that's not clearly off of the flat Earth.
I think if you have a good let's say if you have an all right understanding of the deception going on the Earth today at the highest levels, then it doesn't really add much. Like, let's say they were lying about the shape of the Earth and it is flat. It doesn't really make much of a fucking difference to me. That's right. Because I know that they're lying about a ton of really important things, and that the things they're not lying about are obfuscated through, exclusionary language and just like difficult to follow rabbit holes with a million little cul-de-sacs that you can fall down at any time, and you'll just be stuck there forever, and people get stuck there forever, and they have their various ideas about, what they're going to do to solve what's going on in this world and what the problem is. But look, I have a totally different approach to this, and I gotta hand it to Mark Passio once again, because I researched this stuff for many years before I found his work, but he is the man to me that connected the dots and was the greatest teacher to me.
Oh, is that what you sent me?
Yes.
Did I start listening? Oh yeah, yes. Very much. Okay, tell me. Yes.
He's the absolute best of his kind.
Okay, so what would he say here, or what how would he approach this?
Here's what's crazy. We're all trying to figure out how this control mechanism works, and it's so complicated and it's so obfuscated, and you can follow and find all these names and figure out what's going on. But at the end of the day, that it is going on. That they're one big club and that you're this little guy. But here's the kicker. Those institutions or those families, those groups of people, the psychopaths who do the terrible things that we know they do, and, do these terrible psyops on humanity, they're not the biggest problem.
Okay.
The people are the biggest problem.
For not cluing in.
Basically, but for worse than that, for being the ones who actually implement their plan.
Oh, I see.
The police, the military, the lawmakers, every single person who is part of these apparatuses, they are the ones who actually manifest this into existence. So what we have is a small group of, let's call them psychopaths, Satanists, whatever, just speaking words, just making small mouth noises, That's all they're actually doing. Casting spells, some people would call it, spelling words.
Funny you say that. We were watching now with a kid. We were watching Aladdin recently.
I love that movie. The original one, right? Tell me the original one. Don't say the live action one.
I don't even want to name him. Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
The original, and the moment when Jafar does the hypnotism thing on the father.
Yeah.
Right? And I realized, you know what that is? That is no different than being like, hey, listen. I'm telling you, man, you have to listen to me right now.
Yes, it's very true.
And then you see, and it's funny, it's like they're using the wand as if it is a hypnotist tool, but it's contained in every human's eye itself.
I was going to say the tongue.
Well, the whole... Either, like the entire presence.
Because you're making the words, you're casting the spells.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, anyways, that's pretty much reminded me of what you just said, which is this spell that you're almost under. And people follow the mantras. And because I have come from the technically edge of the Eastern Bloc, I was on the other side technically. Just like Johannes is from Eastern Bloc in Germany, right? So he experienced what happened after the Soviet thing happened, right? So it's very interesting. And I lived in a Muslim world in Turkey when I was a child. So I've had a chance to see, and that's why for me, I'm realizing how the different doses of propaganda run everywhere, right? And for me, I will say that I am still saying that to a large degree, just like I can't prove that the earth is round because I can't see it, I'm too small to prove it. Similarly, I simply can't prove who assassinated who recently,
No.
Just like I can't prove whether there is that big cloud because it's just so far removed from my tiny existence.
It's so easy to get lost in the specifics and to lose the forest for the trees, type of thing, right?
That's why I like to define, this is what I was trying to do with trying to organize this. So I think what's happening is that we have, let's say that even with the premise that the big globalistic headquarters that send from every country 189, the WH style, even though it's obvious that it exists. And it's over in Geneva or whatever, somewhere in Europe. That's their headquarters. That's where they're run. And it's just another layer on top of all the mimetic stuff happening under. Just like genes have their layers. There's the primal brain that, and like the coding that'll do the primal stuff, then higher and higher until you reach the cognitive stuff. Similarly in societies, the larger it gets, you just get more, bullshit really because the higher it gets, the more it gets removed from humanity itself. But where I'm going with this is that even if we removed the globalistic one, I'm happy to explore which are the entities that are left. And I think that it seems to me that Europe is with North America. They're kind of like one entity. Okay? And they have been through NATO, been slowly in the last 40 years expanding towards the east.
Yes.
Okay? And we're still sending the money now. And I'm a casualty because I got schlepped over here my brother pulled off the refugee. I just came with points and whatnot. But, and then you have, the other chess piece on the other side, which is Russia on the right, and then underneath China, and then you have the Indians who are just kind of doing their thing there, and then you have the Middle East, which seems to be the Islamic world, which is Pakistan. That's how India separated. So that's another. So for me, that's one, two.
That's a bloody and recent history that not many people know about.
Right. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, and then South America. I don't know how maybe they're together with Europe and North. I don't know.
It's a big fucking world out there. But
right?
and
Australia.
I cannot get lost on all that because honestly, I don't think that is the most beneficial use of my limited resources to, take on all that stress and kind of think, okay, what is really going on here and how do I make a difference? And what I think is that we should just focus on the culture right here in North America.
Yeah, totally.
Where we are. And realize we certainly know many things that are obviously wrong with it. Like we know that there's a blind obedience to authority, particularly medical authority, but definitely governmental authority as well. Maybe not as big a thing in America as Canada. I mean, we're here in Canada, and here, obviously, people, I would say, do not have a real rebellious spirit. They like to think that they do. Like, I know a ton of people in my generation and below really love to think that they're big fucking rebels, going out there to their little protests and everything. Not that I haven't been to those as well, but when it comes down to it, they'll line up for their shot and eat their donut.
Yeah, totally. Of course. Here's my angle on this. And this is why, by defining this, I'm only sinking further down the emergent levels to hone in onto the branch that I want to land on, right? So now now that we're looking at the Western world, right, we keep doing the same thing. And then this is what I mean is it's like, to continue with the pride thing, there seems to be two dominant narratives, two dominant parties, if you will, that seem to be the two hands of the same thing. that is creating all these, depending on whoever gets chosen at a time. They'll still play the same game.
Right?
Right?
I mean, that's what I believe. Yeah.
Right. And here's what I think is happening is that is, I think, a product. These disconnected ways and very divisive also ways, I think, come largely also from these more overall overarching globalistic governmental systems. And this is why you see the rising of, we can call it populism, or we can call it, some people would call it conservatism. For me,
do you think that's a natural phenomenon?
Nationalism. I think it is, yes, natural from cultural perspective, from the emergent system of how cultures function.
Is culture a natural phenomenon?
Because it comes out of nature. It emerges out of biology.
Is the culture that we have now in North America a natural phenomenon?
It's another expression of how cultural systems can express themselves.
Because I would assert that it's a very unnatural culture that we have right now. Very top-down imposed.
Yes, culture. Totally. It's a very extremist expression of an ideology. That's what I would say. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
That's a fair way to classify it.
And I think what's happening is that nationalism is emerging pretty much everywhere. And look what happened in Nepal. But it's the nationalism is the ability of that group of people. Now that we're narrowing it down against Dunbars now, right? We're coming to the city village world now, where you have some capacity as people, as you said. I've went and protested. It doesn't have to be on a street. It could be in your school. It could be in your work. It could be within your social worlds of how you, this is why for me, I've realized that I call out any extremist outbursts or people who come in and run an ideology on someone. So if someone comes to me and says that I can't think this or say that because I'll burn in hell because of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
It's same to me as if somebody came to me and said that I can't, I have to express my pronoun, otherwise I'll be fired.
Don't you know that mushrooms are the devil, and if you ever eat one, you'll be forever his servant?
Is that right?
No, that's a fucking bullshit. I've taken tons of mushrooms.
Well, mycelium does live everywhere. You know what my theory is on that, by the way? I think the mushrooms are consciousness. Mushrooms.
That's an interesting one. They certainly expand it.
But that's where I'm going with it, is that I think that there was life and animals, and then mycelia, just because it lives everywhere, just created, because mycelia uses the same, I think, nutrient. It's just another chemical messenger.
You know, you're not the first man to put forward this theory. Are you familiar with a man named Terence McKenna?
Yeah, I've heard.
The stoned ape theory.
Right. Well, his angle, I think, was more that eating that helped our brains develop where they are.
Yeah, basically, like, the reason that humanity has, the kind of consciousness it has. We were just dumb monkeys,
Totally. So I'm writing off of that, but I'm doing the extra thing, which is that the actual consciousness, the subjective that you're experiencing, that's the mushroom.
Are animals conscious?
I think it's a holographic emergent thing, just like when the stars come out in the sky. That's how I see it. It's like and I think that comes to with baby. When you're first born, it's like closing your eyes. You can see lights, and then it slowly starts to get, pixelated.
But if mushrooms are consciousness, I mean, let's say something like some parrots or some, corvid species, like, I don't know, blue jays and crows and ravens and shit, like, they can live quite a long while. They can learn a lot of language. They can get very smart. Like, to me, those beings are conscious. Not at the level of humanity, but they certainly are conscious in the sense that, I mean, I think even a cat can have a pretty high level of consciousness. It definitely depends on the cat. Some of these cats are dumb as fuck, but some of them are smart.
This is a perfect... Oh, absolutely. This is a good example where... what we have been doing in the last, say, 5-10 minutes is we are talking about these processes purely from the perspective of a mushroom, and rather than I'm leaving this world to another world, because there's so much that one can construct to make sense out of what's going on within what we've got. And I mean, I'm just being playful with it, whether it's the mushroom that sees. Although I think the mushrooms are having a conversation, technically speaking, because they're just everywhere, right?
It feels like a communion when you do.
Yeah. Doesn't it? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, back to the Pride Parade, if I may. After the flags, it was the BIPOCs.
Ah, the BIPOCs they've tacked on, though.
And it was like every race except one race.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm just standing there, and you just see like a sea of people all dressed up, and most older people are just kind of like they're just kind of like, you know. And then finally came, what was it? The actual world of LGB, right? Before the T's at the end. And that was kind of like, you know, the display of some kind of a carnival thing. First group was, right? It was for the gays. Then it was, I guess, for the lesbians. And I guess the third one might have been, I can't remember. That was
kind
of
the buys. Did they go in order?
I imagine they would, right?
Let's keep it organized. You know?
But before
not going to be liberal about everything.
But they, right? No, you shouldn't have order. They should roll the dice every time.
Every time.
Every time. But the craziest part was that the LGBs were separated from the Ts with the Palestinian supporters.
Ah,
so,
interesting.
Pride Parade.
That's very strange. Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with a war in a foreign country. And why is the Pride Parade, while it doesn't show any other I was just watching the whole thing, and the worst part with it, there was commotion. Police were getting involved because the T's and the supporters of Palestine.
You don't say.
Were
I couldn't have seen that one.
And that to me, by the way, that one to me was the revealing element. I'm like, look at that. This shows that all of these are hashtags. All of this is just
the Pride Parade. I think, to my understanding, has become a vehicle
of the globalists, and I think, in my opinion,
every movement does.
If my movement ever got co-opted like this,
it's happened.
There's a world famous music festival in Novi Sad in Serbia called Exit. That for the first time is not going to happen this year, because I talked to some people when I was back there. I met some musicians, and she was saying how. It was, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, there's these people who thought there's not many bands. And so they started on the fortress of Novi Sad there, started organizing music events. And before you know it, exploded. It was one of the biggest festivals in Europe.
All right.
Billy Idol, Kraftwerk, you know.
Oh, Kraftwerk,
like big. And I realized when I was talking to someone, the same thing happened. It just got bought off by sponsors again.
Every movement does.
And Burning Man.
Never been, but I'm sure it has, because it's been going on for so long.
Right. So that's for me. If any movement that I ever start, you never know. If it ever gets co-opted, I would just go down the street and start. Although they would imagine if a bunch of actual regular people decided to do a local pride parade that is just the good old ways. Outside of the main one.
Whatever the good old ways are, yeah.
Actually, yeah, the good old ways would be them. No, I don't know. I don't
just wish to speculate.
Was that?
I don't wish to speculate.
The thing about the way the Pride Parade is, it's kind of almost like a big ritual that has become a corporate ritual to me that now is just almost imposed rather than in the name of celebration. You know? Because for me, the Pride Parade, the good old way, would have been just celebrating a diversity of people who are minority. Because I consider myself in the artistic world, I consider myself as a minority in the way I look at you. You know, you yourself say at work, I'm the guy, you know? That's a minority.
If you believe the things that we believe, you're a minority.
Exactly. So do we get a day or a month? Right? No, and that's why for me is that if we're going to do true diversity and play true inclusion and for all minorities, we shouldn't be choosing a couple of groups and just focusing on them.
Of course, we both know what that's about. You know, it's not, these movements aren't about true inclusion. Like you said, you know, this has gone from being a grassroots movement.
That's the point.
To being, now it's a top-down movement. You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's how I see it. Yeah. And how do we break the spell?
That happens to every movement, though. Because once it gets big enough, you know, there are people that will go in and they will co-opt it. They will rise the ranks. They're very charismatic. They're trained for this, you know.
So my take on it is that I'm interested in running this. If I start a religion, or I wouldn't call it a religion, a club. Let's call it
a club.
A club. Right? You're invited.
That sounds even more sinister, but go on. Oh, don't think of it as a religion. Think of it as a club. More like a gentleman's club.
Like a private gentleman's club.
Yes. An exclusive society for the best of us.
What I've realized is that, this is fight fire with fire, I guess, but the reason why I'm saying this is because I need to get to define my own ethics.
Yeah. Cowboy style.
My
I respect
rules,
it.
right? Like, this is my house, and it's always in the context of the Dunbar's number, which is it's as much as I can fill a house, and then you can talk without a microphone to reach all the ears. That's the level of how big this entity would ever become.
Okay.
So then it would sprout itself as a but technically that is what Jesus would have wanted to do, like just gather a bunch of people on the plains, right? And then, or I don't know enough about Jesus. I shouldn't even.
Yeah, nor do I.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. But that's my point, is that I think that the best way, in my opinion, to celebrate the people in the world of LGBT, and I guess you can add the T's, although then you can also add the people who live in the open relationship world. Throw them in. And then, unfortunately,
they'd probably like to be a part of it. Yeah.
And then it crosses into the world of minors. Like, it's funny how once you
see that coming down the line.
But that's once you start letting it become extremist. But regardless, like what I was thinking, and this is where I think that proportional representation is the only way to run it, which is everyone's voice gets heard. You just don't allow anyone to go extremist. You just don't allow for the extremist expression of anything, and that's how you run the system. You know.
See, I have a different perspective on it. I mean, I'm very much a student of Mark Passio's, so all my opinions on this are going to be downstream of his teachings. But
okay.
I do think that anarchy is the only moral solution, and that the reason that word sounds bad to people is a psyop. Just like the word conspiracy theory. Anarchy is not a bad word.
And, okay, yeah, but the thing with me is that I don't like to I don't like to even own or identify myself off of a word that's become a slur to them. I'll find my own word, a new one.
See, I take a different perspective in the sense that, words were created to mean a certain thing. Just because some fucking yahoos want to go and try to mutilate my word doesn't mean I'm giving it up. That word existed before I was born.
Okay. In that case, between you and me, the word rainbow ought to be given back to the dictionary.
The word rainbow is just a rainbow to me.
Yeah, but the way I went with the daughter, I wanted to buy her a rainbow flag. Just a rainbow, of a rainbow. And every single flag was an LGBT flag on everywhere. I went online, I looked everywhere, and then I thought maybe I can find just like a flag that's like this. And then this is where I'm going with this. Is it's like it's being co-opted.
No, it has been co-opted. That's an interesting thought, because you can't really get away from it. Every time you look at the word rain, or you look at the picture, you're going to see that.
Once I had a child, I realized that through their eyes, the concept of unicorns and rainbows is like the most innocent thing. I know, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right, but meanwhile, there's an entire parade that's now become a bigger than life thing.
Those things aren't innocent, whatever you think about them.
Right, so I think the way to battle it, and the way that the anarchy that you speak of could play itself out, is in exactly what I'm trying to describe, and that is that instead of having this big parade, you have 100 for every neighborhood in town, 100 different small local pride parades that celebrate the minorities for that day, Yeah. And that way it's decentralized. And it's tribal. Anarchy is tribalism. This is why when people talk about even Kirk,
Charlie Kirk,
right? He even used to say that, and they do the same thing in Palestine right now. Settlers versus immigrants is their argument, which is settlers were people who came here. There was nothing here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, there was nothing here.
I mean, if
you go flying around, there's nothing.
But there was a lot less than there is.
No. What they mean is that there was no modern multi-level society that the Western civilized.
Like you had to put in some real hard work to get a civilization up and running. It's very different than just jumping into free healthcare.
So the settlers helped build the civilized society, but that doesn't mean that there was tribal societies. And I think what's happening is that the value of tribalism is just, with the influx of globalist ways of existing, are just being totally discredited, and they're all dying out. Soon there might be, who's it? I was reading up, because I did so much research with my writing on this. There's all these, I went to Polynesia and I wanted to find out about their tribal systems. And supposedly there was 300 ancient dialects and whatever languages of this one Polynesian, whatever it was, language of these tribes. And today there's one left. And the survivors are 5 of them. It's basically, and they're in 3 years, no one will know this tribe of people ever existed. And I think that's where the cutoff happens. And that's why they're we're here to uphold the large societies. And I think the way to, bring that down, I think, is to think more locally. But unfortunately, local way of thinking is frowned upon because it's labeled as, oh, you're far right.
Yeah, for some reason that gets put in with some political
right?
faction.
Because the push has become extremist into the globalist zone. Yeah. And everything's being run top down. And that's, and we can push it as far as it being the full global entity.
But also going into, tribalism is an actual human, some would say it's a very natural thing. Like you said, the Dunbar number for humans to separate into tribes. And I believe in a sense it is. But I also believe that just like many other natural things, this too has been harnessed to turn us against each other and divide us because...
Actually, sorry, yeah?
Just because, like, for example, some rednecks off on a farm somewhere in America, they are really just people who care about the simple things,
That's
family,
right.
having enough food, all that,
That's right.
But they're told that, because you believe this, you also believe this, and see how neatly they're shuffled into one side of this,
Agreed.
divide.
Actually, from
right?
that angle, you can totally play the devil's advocate on this, and you can actually give kudos to larger societies because, and this is, I'm trying to put this as a hypothesis, let's say, and that is that the murder rates of tribalism, especially amongst tribes, it seems to be pretty brutal when you look in the way tribes used to exist. Just think of the MacLeods, like the way that the warfare happened, right? And again, multi-level society, as I call them, exists on large playing fields. Like they'll occupy a large land, and within there, the civilized world, that's why it's called civilized, will by and large be such that you're not going to get shot or murdered or, ard, as they like to say, on the streets. And that's the civilization. That doesn't mean that they don't have a shield as US does, right? That's why they're like, the American dream or the Western dream and all this kind of stuff where they're presenting it as, and that doesn't mean that they're not going around the world and creating destruction at the same time, right? It's just separated, right? So it's a cushiony life in the West, or has been. And what's happening is that I think is being sold off, is being betrayed. The West is being betrayed.
You know where I think this is all going in terms of this cushiony life? It's going straight into VR.
What's that?
Virtual reality.
Oh, man. The Matrix is really... how far do you think it's going to go? How far do you think it is? I'm not really following.
You ever seen the movie Ready Player One?
Yeah. Are we there yet?
No, but I don't think it's that far. I think I'll live to see it.
It will reach it, you think?
In my lifetime, if I should live to be a ripe old age, I believe I'll see a day where the youth spend... And I can say this with certainty. We're going to see a day where the youth spend more time in VR than in the real world within my lifetime. Already do. That's what in a way, we already do. It's just not very good VR yet. It's just, social media and video games, right? But I'm talking like the next iteration of that,
So do you think that's a good thing?
Fuck no. Of course not. Why would that be a good thing? That's a terrible thing. We're talking about a being that barely moves. Someone that has completely lost touch with his body, the planet, and everything that made him human to begin with. Like, we're talking about a terrible, potential next stage in human, some might call it evolution, because we're going to become more adept in certain cognitive ways, but we're going to completely lose touch with our bodies.
Here, you're in IT world, right?
Yeah.
So programming. Can I ask you to design something for me? I would like... We can do it together. How can anybody, create a device that just doesn't have updates? It works.
Easy. Just fucking write a firmware and make sure you test the shit out of it before you release it.
Right.
I mean, that's actually the least easy thing in the world, so I shouldn't have said easy. But that's what people used to do. Look at the GameCube.
Why? No, I don't know. What about the GameCube?
We're just talking about old consoles. Nintendo released the GameCube. They released a game. It was on a disc. None of the consumers had an ability to update that game once it released. Whatever bugs were in it stayed in it. And that's just the way it was. But you have a very usable piece of software that doesn't get bricked. So it's
so that's beneficial. Because I updated my IMDb. Sorry, your IMDb doesn't work on my phone because my phone's not too old or whatever.
Yeah.
Like these updates are just, and this is, I think, what's creating what you're talking about is this ever increasing step by step further being drawn with every update. Like, I'm still on CS6. I love CS6. I don't want to be in the cloud. I don't want the AI.
CS6.
Adobe. Adobe CS6.
Is this music software?
No. Design, digital design.
Oh, okay.
Like, or no, but it's also, they have Premiere and After Effects.
I know about those ones. I feel like I should know what CS6 is. I don't.
CS6 is just the last platform before they jumped on the cloud.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And once it was a CSX game, sure, but CSX was already jumping.
Oh, I see. So CS6 is the version and the software is Premiere.
Right, and so now what they're doing is the CSC, the cloud, now incorporates AI into the whole thing, which is the grab. And all the old devices, mine last being, and I'm gonna just keep buying old versions of the same computer that I have to have my old stuff until I drop. That's my plan.
Damn.
And then I might buy extra computers to keep up with whatever's going on. But the AI is fully, I don't know if you heard about this, but the Adobe Creative Cloud now, because so much AI is involved in creating the images, they are saying that it's not really your work anymore.
Oh boy, this whole idea that you can own intellectual property, you know.
But they're doing it because they have created a robot that does the designing for you now. So you can just plug it all in. Whereas back in the day, you have to do the, stamp tool and stamp it, and that's why it's your work. But where I'm going with this is that most of these old apps are not, most people don't even, there's CS6 doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's on CS6 unless they specifically do what I'm doing. Everyone's in the cloud, which means they are, to your point, further and further getting into the virtual world more and more.
Yeah. No, I hate the way that the market is going in terms of these things. And I try not to buy things that are subscription based as best that I can, because that business model is disgusting. And it's just such a weird world we live in where we finagle all these new markets out of nothing so we can somehow make enough money to continue to pay the rent, when in reality we're living in a more efficient and advanced society than we've ever been living in. If not for the massive theft going on, we would all have to work barely anything, like really barely anything. It's a totally artificial playpen that we're all in right now. Like,
yeah, it's funny how if everyone got together, they could just split up in more fairly ways, but it just doesn't happen for some reason, does it?
I mean, imagine the scale of efficiency we have now compared to like a farmer having to fucking do everything by hand, and now you have machines that can just do it for you. And all you should really have to do is maintain the machines.
Right. So why is that not happening? Why aren't we all just getting a bit...
How much of the market right now has nothing to do with the necessities of living? Like all these digital things we do that we could just turn off the fucking screen and stare at a wall and be fine, right? Like, where would we make our money? Why do we need this much?
Right. And if a person lost a job because a robot or an AI software took their job, shouldn't they finally just get the money because the robot's doing it? Or at least a percentage? Or all of us?
This whole charade's gonna fucking fall apart
right?
within our lifetime.
The whole point was that robots are supposed to just make life just so much easier.
I mean, in theory they could, but the thing is, if you were, that's kind of based on the presupposition that we're living in a society in which the majority... in which the rule is, hey, let's make life better for everyone. It's not, and it's not that way for anyone. Not even the idealistic, university commies. Like, they don't fucking put their beliefs to the test. They won't do that.
It seems to me that the reason why this doesn't happen, and I really think, is because any system that gets introduced sooner or later runs itself into some extremist value, because people who believe in it will go to the grave with it, and regardless of the other concerns that others might have, right? So that's why I guess I've always appreciated the system that the US have, where they have to switch political parties every 4 years.
It's definitely America of any country on earth, and people are going to hate me for saying this, maybe. I don't know who the audience is, but obviously we're talking about a deeply enslaved country, but compared to every other country on earth, they have a better system of government and law.
So how did they allow themselves to get captured? I guess it came from above. So they're just... They came through the back door. They went up, they occupied the higher end governing entities, and then now they're just playing chess left and right. They're just giving you okay, you have this now you have this.
Like the way I see it,
but really I'm here running the same show.
Like America broke away from the British Empire, and in doing so broke away from the world control mechanism. Only major power that's ever done that.
It doesn't seem like
No, it's because it was short-lived. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was short-lived because in 1913, Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act, gave them the ability
to step outside of that.
Only people that could print money, right? Federal Reserve. The government no longer issued its own currency. The country became controlled by its monetary supply and became embroiled in all these wars, and the military-industrial complex runs that fucking country.
So, but wouldn't one say that the nationalists are the enemy to this? And that's why people like Trump or Hitler who are calling for things to, be done for the people. And that what that means.
Those guys are just fucking playing their part, man. Both of them. Both Trump and Hitler. Not that I wish to compare them because they're very different people. Well, Hitler was a vegetarian. I'm kidding.
No. I'm not even thinking of it for personality. I always think of these things as what role they played for the societal movement.
No, the role that they play is just riling people up against each other and just perpetuating inevitable... What does Trump do? Is Trump really speaking words of unity? I mean, look, he's said many things that are appealing to me. He's trying to target my specific demographic. I should hope some of his rhetoric appeals to me, but... At the end of the day, I know that he's a politician, and I know that he's been groomed for this.
Well, this is where, actually, I would say from this angle that considering his involvement in the Middle East and not having stopped the wars at all, the fact that he was promising stop of wars, I'm like, and I remember he only mentioned Ukraine, I remember. And I'm like, he's not mentioning down south at all.
No, and they need that to continue.
Right, and that's why I think that the parties are just, okay, well, war now, okay, so the right, for them it's like a match, okay?
It's literally never going to end. The idea that people think...
they're just moving the money from north down to south, and then continuing the wars there. It's the same machinery. But where I'm going with this...
That's never going to change so long.
Right, so this is where I almost would not compare Trump to Hitler, because it sounds to me that Hitler actually stopped in 1933 the World Bank, that he actually created his own currency and decided to just function outside of the World Bank system that was kind of occupied globalistically already there.
Okay, I have a different perspective on this because I look at it from more of a pre-World War I perspective, and where I see World War II as a necessary part 2 to World War I to finish the job, right?
And the job is? The
job being basically set up the modern America, and the job is bigger than that, but one part of the job is set up the modern version of America, the totally controlled one, and have it continue perpetual war all over the globe forever.
Oh, I see. And then they use the divides. Yeah, because the story of Hitler is interesting to me. Because
the Balfour Declaration was signed in 1917, right? This is way before World War II, and this says that the British Empire is going to give the state of Israel to the Jews, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to happen, right?
Well, that's one of the examples is that it worked in their favor to have a calamity of that sort.
It worked in their favor because it was all fucking planned.
No, I'm totally on board with that.
And Hitler is part of the person ushering in that plan.
But however, so I think what happened, even with your premise, it works because... And this is, again, the co-option that I was talking about, the pride world that we just talked about. There's, because Germany had come out already of being slammed.
Yeah.
And then I've heard arguments where it was that the France and Britain and I guess Spain are not allowing Germany to flourish. They just keep slamming it, in the name of. Yeah. But more so is that people were so hard done by throughout the 20s in Germany and 30s, going into 30s, that the people would follow people who would say, okay, we gather together as just us conservatively and forget about the rest of the world, and we just pull ourselves to forget their monetary system. We'll lend each other money and give each other stuff. We're going to cut ourselves out. And then that was used, back to your thing, to it seems that it happens every time when something becomes big. It can't be big. That's my conclusion. It cannot, you should never allow yourself to get to the Trump, or for that matter, any presidential situation ever. It should somehow work in as, not tribal, but poddish.
No, then this is what I believe in. My conception of, I've often tried to espouse this. It's my conception of anarchy works in this way, in that you do have cells. Right? That's how nature works. Right? And you should have cells.
Yes.
That's a stable structure, too. Yes. When you have a bunch of cells and we're all unified on the very basics, hey, we all want to keep this arm together. you know, right?
Right, exactly. The basics, right?
The basics.
But
you can
what
have all
they
your
do is-
individualistic beliefs, but we
Right.
agree on the basic things like, hey, we're not going to go killing innocent people, you know, pedophilia is wrong, like the real
Right.
important things. you
Right,
know?
right.
Like just the very fucking basics. Don't go stabbing your neighbor. Like,
But that's the thing is when you have a lot of when the society becomes large, the expressions of temperaments and how they, you know, vary really start to show themselves, and they can congregate, right? Like you have like a club of people, you can, you know, people, that's why they say business is all a bunch of psychopaths who don't care about whether they'll just sell you. They'll sell you anything just to make the buck.
at
So
the highest
person-
level, I think
so-
that's a fair.
Right, I think this is Peters's argument when he talks about, I mean, he talks about the left.
Jordan
attract-
Peterson's argument.
Yeah, you're right. He was talking about how it's the entity of the woke attracts that mentality. But for me, woke is simply the extreme expression of leftist feminine temperament of humanity. That's how I see
I
it.
think that's a fair way to
Right,
conceptualize it.
and whatever they call far right is the same thing, but on the masculine end, right? And then there's interplays of various sorts and expressions of various sorts that all plays itself out.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, no, it definitely appeals to different like emotional temperaments. Like some people would say that the right is, you know, Big Daddy. You know, he's going to keep you safe. Maybe if you didn't have a dad keeping you safe when you were younger, that might appeal to you more.
Yeah, that's right.
The
That's
left
right.
is Big Mommy. You know, she's going
That's
to
right.
make sure that you have enough food and keep you cuddled and all soft and comfortable. You know.
Exactly, and it is to me. I just released before I went for my trip, like 3.5 hours worth of dissecting this world from this framework, which is, and this is how I approach relationships as well. Which is where if you have, two people in a relationship, both voices ought to be heard. And to me, I always say if the female voice is more often heard, then that's a more dominant matriarchal system. Simply and purely, it's who has the last call, right?
Yeah. Who's wearing the pants? as
Who's
some
wearing the
people
pants,
would
and
say.
then whoever talks more, their overall temperaments will guide the ethics. And back to the club now. I think the way I will solve this, and this includes, I'd say, people like you and many people who I know right now, which is people who don't play the ideological, you have to do this because it's mandated, because I'm following.
It's going to be a small club.
Not necessarily. Well, no, but this is where you go. Look at what happened with Charlie. His club, because I've been following Charlie since he started. His club was a bunch of people screaming at him, shouting at him. He was hated on campuses. He was berated.
That's true.
Right?
That's
and then little
Culture
by
has
little,
shifted.
and then he just, I know, and he was the lead. And of course, was Crowder. He's the guy who really started that.
Yeah, changed my mind. Yeah, I used to watch those.
Remember even the memes? He's the meme. Like whenever you have changed my mind and it's something.
He did fucking start that.
And he was just talking. I listened to him talk about Charlie. But where I'm going with this is that when, for me, it's about if someone, like say, if they know that we're all gathering and they want to come and hang out, you can. But just so you know, you don't get to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do with their bodies. That you think that the government should.
Yeah.
That's an ideology, and we can, especially if it's unreasonable. For me, of course, we have to have red and green lights to drive cars around the city. We have to have them. We have to make sure that you don't just drive through a red light, right?
Yeah, no, the city somewhat has to operate like a big organism.
We need to have laws that everyone abides for if we want to live in millions around each other.
Yeah. It's a proximity thing.
It's the when the laws become unjust, and that's where you spot the corrosive extremist ideologies coming. Where you're like, hey, this doesn't make any sense.
When it comes to laws like traffic laws, that's a totally different category from what I would say are morality-based laws, because the traffic law is an efficiency-based law, right? And like, to me, that different category.
So different category. But what I've done is that I've labeled every law, because law is what it's a meme. A gene is what is it called? A strain of molecules that will tell the body what protein to make to go out there and do something. Mm-hmm. A meme is an idea in your head that tells you what you should go and physically do in the world that your meme is telling you. It's, to me, a meme is synonymous to a law, or what you should do. Oh yeah, that's how I see it.
Interesting.
That's how I've defined it.
Because to me, a meme is more like a suggestion or an idea, whereas a law implies some sort of force behind it.
And the reason why it does. That's right.
But a
That's
meme
it.
has no force behind it.
It does. It's for me. It is fully on because if we're gonna honor Dawkins's definition, which he himself kind of abandoned and thought, oh, there's nothing to
Dawkins?
see here. Yeah, Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins?
He defined meme in his book, The Selfish Gene, at the end.
Oh, he's the one who defined the word
He
meme. I heard it from
coined it.
Terrence McKenna first.
No. He adopted that.
Okay.
Dawkins, and then many people, like there's people who wrote books. Susan Blackmore wrote in a meme machine. I wrote my entire book was on memes.
Okay, you're more an expert.
I went into it, but anyways, this is how I've come to define it. We can define it however we want, but the general idea is if the gene, which is the synonymous, isomorphic is the word I use, which is what basically Dawkins was doing. Gene is the code for what the body is to do. Mm. And a meme is a code for what you're to do.
But it's not authoritative.
Yeah, it is.
A meme.
Yes.
But can't you just think of a different meme? Like, or you just think of something
any
else
law,
entirely?
any law. So here. There's kitchens. There's the wave primordial soup. You know primordial soup.
Yeah.
So primordial soup came out of molecules doing that to each other in an anarchical state, let's call it. And eventually they organized themselves into what life became, let's call it, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, the judgments that we cast on each other all the time are always running between humans because we're in tribal systems. We by default create cells, if you will, like pods.
I think that is natural, yeah.
Right, and within that, the judgments and the whose last word it is, who's going to be listened to, and this is where matriarchy and patriarchy colors it. Matriarchy and patriarchy is basically two different kinds of temperaments, societal it's like a skin color to society almost, but it's not really.
I see it as two
it's much more
polarities of the same bad system.
Well, no, but not necessarily bad. Only bad if it gets
on a societal scale. Yeah, on a family scale, it's great. I think.
It's right, but you have a dose of patriarchy and matriarchy in societal system inevitably.
In like a communal sense, yeah, but not in like a. Yeah, no, if you're talking about like a small group of people, like say a bunch of guys decide to go on a piece of land and live together with their families,
It will emerge by default. That's my argument.
Something like that will, yeah. But I think there's a difference between having kind of like that suggestive, more natural leader where it's like people follow.
So it starts off from a gossip, which is, oh, he shouldn't do that, kind of like just, and then it becomes a rule of thumb thing, sort of kind of like, what is it, For Good Men? Is it For Good Men with Jack Nicholson? When they have that book and they say, where in the book says that you can beat up people over in the prison, right? So it doesn't say anywhere. It's just in everybody knows, right? It's kind of like out of the book rules. Like that's the world of off the books, memes. Just those are memes that are not official memes. Those are they're functioning. They're kind of like on. They want to become laws, and then eventually, and this is how you had people who wanted to have equal rights, LGBT, all of that stuff. Eventually, they fought to a point where they managed to make their shoulds, as in like we need to adopt this into a law. And now when it becomes a law, then this is where the extremism comes in, where it goes from we just want to accept somebody to if you don't accept him, you're a bigot and you don't get to become, which becomes an extremist support of that movement or that kind of law or that.
You don't think that was the plan all along?
Was that?
You don't think that was the plan all along?
I think it happens with any need. This is where I'm going with it. If you give it to the people who want to have families, then it'll evolve when now a woman has to have 11 children, or as many as possible because every life matters, right? There's like they outsource abortion and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be like, there'd be a set of rules that would come from that world of societal governance, if you will. And they're all rules. And memes. Meme can be a meme. Most people think meme as an internet meme, by the way, which is a completely
unrelated. No, that came later.
That's completely I know that much. Right. So, but for me, it's
it's not completely unrelated.
It's totally related, yes, but it's. But
it doesn't. It's not like the definition of
it. That's right. That's the point. And so for me, it's one of those where I'm realizing that there's layers. Like you have the traffic laws are the memes that come from the. City hall level of, say, city level of Dunbar's group.
And every time you see Dunbar, I think of Dunbar, the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's perfect.
A third generation Dunbar right here. You know, my grandfather fucking raised my dad in Dunbar. So.
Oh, for reals?
Yeah, for real.
Huh.
Yeah.
I was
I'm a Dunbar boy.
my saxophone player that I used to play with, Colin.
A saxophone player. What happened to that guy? Fuck.
Do you know Colin? Markello?
I'm not sure.
He lived there. He was on Dunbar Boy. He used to tell me about how different it was. You would just hang out.
No, it was a cool place growing up. It's definitely changed, but you know, it's funny you talking about like the Dunbar number and how like if you have a small enough amount of people, it can be a good tribe. That's what Dunbar felt like because it was so small and quiet and like so peaceful and just nice for the most part. Yeah, good neighborhood to raise kids back in those days.
I bet.
It's a good place to be as a kid.
Bet. So where I was going with this is that for me, every time the society becomes the bigger entity, you have to create an office where there's going to be the governing zone that is going to create the next layer of memes. In this case, traffic memes. So they make laws around whether it's you're allowed or not allowed to cross the street on a red light.
Yeah.
Just as much as whether you're allowed or not to, make an advance at a girl that is not your girlfriend or wife.
So
right?
I see these as very different categories of law, right? Because to me, the road and the traffic system is just a system, and it's purely based on efficiency of that system, right? It has nothing to do with morality or belief or anything.
No, it totally does, because it serves the world of human needs. Because if you go to courts over it, like who did you cross the red light, or did that person step in for that person to get killed? Right?
But that's purely to keep the system of transportation running efficiently.
Just like any other law is meant to keep people from to have children. This is why they would say that the attack on family is happening by allowing, if you will, or legislating for people to not want to have children or get advances or be ethically encouraged to live a familyless lifestyle, Right? It's all, there's different strengths of expression, but I agree with you, there are different categories. But ultimately, they're all telling you what you should be or shouldn't be doing.
That is true,
every
yeah.
system.
I guess when I think of law, I mean, as it matters to me, traffic law isn't the first thing I think about. I kind of just put that into a box and say, well, I like to be able to drive. It makes sense, and then I focus more on things like, how controversial do I want to get today if any of my coworkers see this? Well, it's a fair opinion to have. I mean, let's take something like abortion. I have no idea what your stance is on this.
I have a whole thing.
But I do think that, for example, when you legalize something like abortion, now that's a law that I spend time thinking about, because to me, it's like there's all these spiritual implications, there's all these moral implications, whereas a traffic law is just like a system of transportation that
it's simple.
Really any sane person would agree on that, no matter what they believe about anything important.
Right.
Like nobody believes that you should get stuck in traffic, right?
Absolutely. Well, there are different levels of risk. Like traffic involves life and death just as much abortion does. And life and death is predicated on ethics, because you're playing the trolley problem game, which is you're deciding whether 5 deaths here, 1 life here, right? Like, or safety so you don't get injured. It doesn't have to be life or death, right? So from the level of saying you should stop on red is no different from me saying you have to take this medical product in your vein.
I still see it as very different.
It's the same.
There's a similarity in the.
It's the similarity that I'm drawing here. And this is what I said. It depends how you set up the system under. And the way I've set it up is that if it's in the name of a need, of a human need, then it'll drive a specific law underneath it, or a strategy that needs to be implemented in order to get that need met. Right? Mm-hmm. So traffic is in the name of safety just as much as doing medical products is about safety. That's the need.
But there is a really big difference between
complexities.
Mandating an injection versus obeying traffic laws. For example, for me to obey traffic laws, I don't have to compromise the integrity of my own being.
That's precisely the point. You're right on the nose with this.
That's where we get the spiritual morale.
That's why when they used to compare the jab with the seatbelt, remember that? When they're like, well, you put your seatbelt on. And I'm like, if you really want to have a proper analogy, that would be that you can take a little jab before you go driving.
Yeah.
And then whatever you put in the jab makes your body a bit more elastic. So if you get in a car accident,
fair enough,
you'll just bounce around and you'll be fine.
Yeah, the insurance company lobbyists or whatever,
Right, like the difference between if you told me, listen, just put a bandana around your arm, and it's as good as a jab. It'll save your life, because the seatbelt is truly just a piece of tape.
The thing is, this is where we go into
that doesn't even go inside of you.
There's ideology versus just factual, observable reality. The idea that a seatbelt prevents you from going through a windshield is just basic physics. It's so fucking obvious it can't be argued. Whereas the idea that a jab protects you is a completely faith-based belief.
So here's okay, great. The argument here now relies in it's really easy in the world traffic, worlds of traffic, to create the laws around it because it's so simple.
Yeah, everything's cut and dry. It's physical things, certain velocity, all physics, spiritual, moral. We're not trying to kill each other. We all know that, right?
So whereas the process of they're going to put a thing that has a lipid nanoparticle around it, and that's going to travel into your whole body.
As soon as something breaches my skin, the integrity of my body has been compromised. That's forcing me to eat something.
Yeah, I know, right? But what it does inside and how it works and what's in it, what it's not in it, how complicated this is the muddle that was used to create. This is the argument. Ironically, this is why it's so connected to the woke world. Because again, I always keep saying that when Peterson said we can't have compelled speech, he actually, he added after that, we can't have compelled speech that is predominantly subjective. Because we have compelled speech all the time. You're compelled. Compelled speech is the law. You can't, for example, call somebody incite violence. You can't.
Well, that's not compelled speech.
No, you're not allowed to do it.
But that's not compelled speech. Compelled speech is saying...
No, it goes both ways. You're compelled to say the opposite of it.
Well, compelled speech goes one way.
It goes both ways, technically.
I would disagree, and I've listened to Jordan Peterson's argument on this. I'm actually a big fan. I've seen him live twice. Look, and his argument on this particular subject is that... compelled speech means that you have to say this.
That's right.
To say you cannot say that, that's not compelled speech.
So question.
That's restricted speech.
If I show up at an airport with my passport, and on my passport it says that I'm male.
Yeah.
And they ask me for whatever reason, so are you male or female? I say I'm female. Would I be allowed to do that?
First
legally.
Of all, if you weren't, it wouldn't be compelled speech. It would be a restriction on speech. So it would be a different thing. Compelled speech would be saying that you have to say something.
Yeah, but the idea here is that by the very virtue of me being a male on my passport, I'm compelled. This is what memes do. I'm compelled to call myself a male by law. I'm not, but legally
I don't know
speaking,
if you have to call yourself anything.
If my masculinity was involved in a criminal, let's say, or some kind of a legal matter, and I had to come in and testify, and then I called myself just female randomly.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
They're making me have to. This is why they're fighting this. This is what the game is. It goes both ways. It's operant conditioning goes both ways. You can reward something when somebody does something, or you can punish them when they do the opposite.
Yeah, and I think Jordan Peterson shows a very specific angle by focusing on compelled speech, and then saying that it's subjective. Saying that
that's right.
Subjective compelled speech. That's a good qualifier.
That's right.
Because if it approximates reality, then we all then it's obviously not a problem, right? Compelled speech. When it's just you and just saying, I think this, therefore you all have to say
this. That's the precise point. And so the tie-in where I'm going with this is that I think the mistake here is, and this is where the woke world is kind of expressing itself into this, is that they've allowed our societal system has allowed too much subjectivity to float in, and subjectivity to a large degree is the confusion about anti-traffic system, meaning it's too subjectively complicated, which is the world of the jabs. There's no clear saying that if you do this, if you put this in your arm, that it's actually going to do what it's going to do. It's this convoluted, complicated thing that is just as good as being subjective.
In reality, it is. In the minds of the people who took it, it was 100%.
Which shows the fact that similarly they do the same thing with compelled speech to tell people that they have to call them by their pronouns, and if they don't do it, they're bad people. Because badness is defined. It's kind of like if someone said, well, that guy just always crosses randomly on the streets and causes accidents, people say, well, he's a really bad guy for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about coercion, really, at the end of the day.
But that is coercion. Technically, is the imposition that we allow ourselves societally to give for the ruling. And back to the point about small pot systems, when you have a leader who you know personally and trust personally, it's a completely different kind of submission than if it's some entity that's like orders of magnitude of societal order removed from your...
It is.
And I think that's the light that we're both wanting to shine on, is that it's gone too far up the chain of command that now they're just... And your argument...
I mean, I think it's always been this way.
That's your argument.
Yeah,
that
that's my
they've
argument.
been running it, which...
Societies. I'm not talking about the split-offs like the Native Americans and whatever. Those people got left behind for thousands of years.
Tribes are losing. Tribes are losing on this. This whoever's running what we're talking about, depending on how global it goes or doesn't, is running. Funnily, much of it is the modern world of using modern technologies, which to a large degree has improved world. Like a big argument against tribal worlds is that you can have a quality of life pipe systems. That's the whole thing with Lawrence of Arabia.
Pipe systems? Oh, you mean like plumbing?
Plumbing, like the Kramer's pipes. But it's kind of one of those sanitary, civilized life that will increase everyone's well-being.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of plumbing.
Right? But that is being carried out by the globalists are running that one perfectly, whereas native tribes around the world would not have the capacity.
And farmers have to have some sort of wastewater runoff as well, right? And that's what our plumbing is,
Exactly. Oh, well, unless it's just an outhouse over the back and that's it.
That was what it was when that was sufficient. And as the farms got bigger and more dense, you need a more sophisticated system to maintain the same...
The aim to want to go towards more tribal systems kind of takes you into stepping into that kind of a world rather than, although it doesn't have to be. This is where I think, I maintain is that once you decide to run your tribes, which have means, this is the point, which have the rules of engagement, which is you don't get to get extreme. You don't come to and spread your ideology onto people. We respect everyone equally because everyone's different in their own personal ways as well. So we have to respect. And then that becomes the kind of base level kind of setting the tone rather than running the script off of the higher ends.
Now here's a question, and this is going to get to an interesting topic. Where do you get that ethic from? Where does that come from?
I think it comes from human needs.
Human needs?
This is my Marshall NVC, Nonviolent Communication 101. I don't know if you ever heard of
Don't know what that is.
Marshall Rosenberg was what was he? He was, I guess, a psychologist. He traveled to war zones.
Rosenberg, you said.
Yeah, he's ironically my favorite communication system comes from a person who's who's Jewish. But when you listen,
I know a Rosenberg. He's a big Jew.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, he's my favorite. I don't even know what to say. I could say visionary.
Philosopher, visionary.
No, visionary. He created a simple system of how to communicate. It's there's 4 tenets of NVC. Feelings, needs, observation, and request. That's it. And I highly recommend checking him out. Highly.
Okay.
But basically, his entire platform was that, and which is so obvious when you just look at it from what it is that we're just a bunch of human needs driven machines, and any need that wants to get expressed can be supported or it can be not supported, right? Like the expression, the need for males to get laid, human males to just every day want to get laid. Imagine if there was a societal industry for that. That is totally as George Carlin again would say, how is it that something that is totally, you can have sex legally and you can sell legally, but you can't sell sex legally, right? But that is a need, and somehow...
Well, you can in Canada.
It's legal, right?
It's legal to sell it. It's not legal to buy it. That's the funny part.
Hang on. So what do you do?
That's how fucking retarded Canada is. Well, you don't prosecute the prostitutes. You just prosecute the Johns.
Oh, is that what that... Oh. Yeah. So that's... right. So you see how the kind of leftist liberal idea is to try to attend legally to help people, so to give them the freedoms and whatnots, right? So they give... That's
one way of thinking of it.
Right. But depends on to which degree it gets expressed, but it's always in the name of the needs. Like the entire pride world is all human need of the minorities. The entire thing.
Yeah, I have a totally different opinion on all that. I mean, personally, right now I am celibate. I've been so for 2 years, and I intend to be so until I meet a woman I can at least convince myself is going to be my wife. I have to at least genuinely believe that.
That's fair. That's a fair.
And I have a ton of reasoning behind that, but I do think that the hyper fixation on sexuality that we see in the modern world, and just, obviously men have needs, you have a drive, but I don't believe that drive is purely sexual. I think that's one way to express it. And I know a lot of people who practice semen retention will talk about how that drive can transmute.
Oh, yeah. But that still works within the framework. Like, it's all a matter, and I'm not even advocating that male need for, getting laid needs to be met every day.
I mean, you look at how it's being met right now, it's through OnlyFans and pornography for the majority
totally.
of the world.
Absolutely.
It's a very sad fallen state.
Absolutely.
For men to be in.
Right. So, and that's the strategies, request is with the strategies, Marshall, is that in which way are you getting the need met? Right? Like, how are you navigating the idea of getting that need met, which is in the context of communicating with people about making sure that because he was all about communication when people are disagreeing, is it to find that the disagreement more or less is that one's expression or attendance to one's need is alienated, which is your point. And then what he would do is that he would help the two parties find a way to recognize the unmet need on the other side. And when they do that, then the humanity just shows up. Right? That's his nugget of wisdom, right? And then once you do that, then you can strategize to make sure that but the problem is, and this is where governance comes in, is when you say that you're not allowed to. It started with me too, ironically, when males had to apologize for being male, right? Right? But notice...
I certainly never did that.
Many did. That's the thing. Many did. Many, and
fucking crazy. No, I saw that on university campuses. They were making the male students apologize for what other men had done. It's like, fuck that.
I was dating someone at the time, and that person just totally left me, totally cut off ties from me for raising an eyebrow at
I think that was all part of God's plan.
I guess it is. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Fun times, man.
Yeah, good conversation.
Yeah,
man.
Cheers.
I knew we wouldn't run out of things to talk about, but I want to see if...
is there anything that you want to dig deep with?
There is, yeah. This is what I'm getting to, and I think... when I begin, as you know, I'm working on my own platform right now, which is going to start as a website. But I hope that it becomes a bit of a community, and this website is going to be available globally. It already is, but it's not in its finished state yet. So I'm not going to link to the prototype here, but there is a really big problem in the so-called truth and freedom movement right now, and that is the fact that, like every movement, it has been co-opted, and it has been so efficiently, and I saw this kind of close up during COVID, like the last little bit got just, near the end of COVID, and it started out as a bunch of people unified by their disobedience to government mandates, and the understanding that, hey, these people have no legitimate authority over us. You can't force us to do this. And it quickly devolved into, who do we vote for to save us from it? And that is the fucking mind control right there. We're still trapped. And this is what I mean when I say humans are a slave race. I think we've always been this way. And there's as you were saying, there's a very big difference between having a tribal leader in your community that leads by example and by trust and love than what we have right now, right?
Right.
And the idea that you're going to vote for somebody, you know, fucking million, you know, well, not millions, but many, many, many miles away who doesn't know shit about you or your life.
Be million.
That's, yeah, may as well be a million. It's a world apart from you, right? And they're going to make decisions that have direct impacts on your life. Like, what substance goes directly in your fucking artery? Like, come on.
Millions
man.
of dollars apart, too.
Yeah, well, so that's a, you know, I guess a new whole class-based thing. But, no,
Okay,
I mean,
so-
the problem is that the movement has been co-opted. And people are trapped in the idea that someone can lead us on that scale, which they can't.
So hang on. The mainstream world, in my view, is in there, what you just described. But it sounded to me like you were saying that the actual people who are pushing against it, let's call it the freedom world,
Who are they pushing
for? Also co-opted.
They're pushing for Trump to get elected. They're pushing for Pierre Poilievre to get elected. They think that these people are going to fucking save us. These people are part of the very system that enslaves us.
I see what you mean. So
it's hilarious. They haven't gotten past the base beliefs that still enslave us. The idea of legitimate man authority. Man has no legitimate authority. You can lead, but you cannot have authority over another person. That's my belief.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think their way of thinking with this is that considering, I'll just say this and then I'll divulge into like possible outcomes. But the very fact that we live in a two-party system makes people think that the only way out is to vote for whoever the next person is, just to get these people out. That's just where they're stuck.
That's a very sad belief, but yeah,
it's a very simplistic way of thinking.
That's where the majority of the world is stuck right now.
This is why I'm very, very kind of not happy about when I remember I voted for the referendum when it happened. This was maybe 8 years ago now. It was like 2015, 16, just before the madness of the hashtag movement started.
Voted on the referendum? What referendum?
Do you remember the referendum that happened in Canada about 8 years ago, where everyone could vote on whether to have proportional representation versus first past the post, two-party system?
Oh, okay.
Remember that? It was a thing, and I remember John Cleese had a thing where in Britain they have proportional representation, and he was showing how it's actually a better system because, and I'm a believer of that. I'm realizing because it's like having a household where you listen to the wife and the husband, for example, right? Like both. It's not like
but the whole system is a trap either way. It doesn't even matter, in my opinion. To me, this is like a football game. That's what that is.
Right. So that's what I liked about. It's funny. I saw a Jimmy Dore guys. He was on tour, I guess. They interviewed this guy Vega from Bronx in New York. It was actually when I sent. That's the link I should have sent you because I sent you the Candace link.
Oh yeah.
Because at the very same time while she was running that, Jimmy Dore was running the other show, and I regret not sending you that link to watch because I didn't watch Candace.
I don't know much about Jimmy Dore. He's one of those conservative talking heads, right? He's part of like the Rick Rubin thing, or
I don't see him as a conservative. I see him just in the comedian sector who's just calling out.
Comedian, okay. I don't know anything about this guy.
Oh wow, he gives me a lot of information about
Jimmy Dore. I've heard his name before.
He's come through town. He was just here like a few weeks ago.
What does he believe in? He's not a conservative nor a...
No, he believes in that there is a state running the whole thing, and he's trying to figure it out like everyone else, right?
Okay, cool.
But it wasn't even him. It was the other guys who were interviewing this. That's a side point about Jimmy. I mean, a lot of people call Jimmy and people alike as talking heads of YouTube that, they're grifters.
To me, he's just a name I've heard that I've never watched that I thought was...
It's not him, it's Kurt. Kurt is the funniest.
Kurt
the Metzger. He's another comedian who's his sidekick. And then there's his wife. And three of them just give the news and they just laugh at the absurdities of the world. Like they'll have, like, for example, with COVID, they'll have how they're like, so you knew that you were supposed to jab only the people above 65 years old and knew that the science literally told you that you didn't have to, but you still did because Fauci said that they wanted to avoid vaccine hesitancy.
Oh my God.
All right, that's not a scientific argument.
Yeah.
and then they're like, so why did you do it? We did it because of hope. This is like in Parliament. So Jimmy is just laughing at this, and this is where you see of how these things get played out in the real world,
It's like a dark joke though, right?
It sure is. Yeah, sure is. But anyways, the other day they were interviewing this guy from Bronx, and he was a guy who's watching, just like in Serbia, he's watching the entire Bronx collapse. Hospitals are getting closed. People's rooftops are collapsing while they're sleeping. The whole thing is falling apart.
Like the neighborhood in New York.
Yeah, and he wants to run, and then he used the word. I'm going as an independent. And they're like, well, they're trying to convince him, here, if you do a campaign, you can try to get onto the primaries of the liberals to try to pull them back out of the wokeness. And then he said, what you just said. He said, but why would I want to join them?
Yeah.
Like both systems are just deep down in the swamp, I guess.
Yeah, they are.
And so he's trying to run as an independent, and then they go, the thing is, everyone will vote for you because nobody likes either side anymore. Right? Like, or some, but majority.
Well, nobody really, I mean, first of all, a lot of people do, sadly. I hate to break this to you, but they do. I know it's hard to believe.
That's my ivory tower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, me too, because me amongst my family and my close friends, we believe the same thing. You know, we know that we don't want to be part of either side, but, you know, you go out of that bubble and these people are somehow still believing in this. I don't understand it either, but I see it, so I know it's real.
Because they're focused on other things in life, and this is just something that it's a meme. It's something you have to do.
It is a privilege to have your base stuff figured out and be able to think about all this.
Absolutely.
You have to get your shit together. You got to have decent income, decent housing, you know, like good family relationships, all of this.
All of important.
And if you can't have all that baseline, you don't even get to play in the game.
That's right, exactly.
You're just stuck getting batted about by the waves.
And that's all need-based too. And by the way, this is how, for them, speaking of memes, for them, the decision on stopping on the red light is just as simple as going and just getting a quick shot. And that'll be their argument. What's your big deal? It's a quick thing, painless, you're off.
I want to rip apart those arguments. I see where they're coming from in a sense, but it's just like such an oversimplification, and it just deprives it of all nuance. Right?
And so because that is the obedience to the system's rules system. And you just trust it by default. And you don't question it because it's the law. And it's been fascinating for me to see people land on both sides where they're like, I've seen in the past where like, well, the women have no rights, so the men can have. This is the movie Human on YouTube. Did you ever watch it?
Human, no.
It's called Human. It's very artistic. But anyways, they're interviewing a bunch of people about life. And then the one question was, how do you feel about it in your society somewhere in Africa you can have like 7 wives? And this one guy is just kind of laughing and like, it's pretty cool. I mean, hey, I didn't make the system. Like, don't blame me. But that's what it is.
Hate the game, don't hate the play.
And then just like last year, I believe I saw a similar clip opposite, which is males have no rights and women can decide to have a child even if the guy says no, right?
Oh, where's this, Canada?
And then it would have been either here or maybe someone down southwest, you know. And
could be.
But it was the same argument. I didn't make the system up, and that's when I realized, well, actually, maybe you didn't, but the system was made by the forces that invoke different memes, and this is where epimemetics becomes interesting.
Epimemetics, that's the first introduction to the term for me.
I've been trying to find a word. I have a whole glossary, but the way I see it is that the genes really exist. It's just a matter of whether they're methylated or not, meaning whether they're active or not. That's epimemetics.
If you're talking about genes, have you ever heard of a man called Rupert Sheldrake?
No.
Oh my god, you'd fucking love this. He's of the mind that genes are only code for proteins, and that the actual shape of the organism is determined by this thing called a morphogenetics field. That's a magnetic field that surrounds the organism.
That's very good. That's
so very crazy. Good. I met I hitchhiked with some of his colleagues on Cortez a long time ago when I was on a camping trip with my buddy. Never met him, but he was having a conference at the Hollyhock Resort on Cortez Island. You know, I don't know who your audience is, but if they're BC locals, somebody's going to know this.
I know about Hollyhock.
You know about Hollyhock?
I almost did an
Dennis
event
McKenna was there at one point. Terrence McKenna's brother, right? So
I didn't know.
Fucking cool place. I caught a ride with some of his colleagues back, and I had just been listening to Rupert Sheldrake like a week before. Oddly enough, I just became introduced to his work through a band TED Talk, because only 3 of them at that time had been pulled, and he was one of them, and I was curious to see what was being censored. So,
of course,
to
keep up to date, you know.
No, I think that's a super cool idea, though. The idea that it's not all in biology, because, of course, I have the belief that, you know, the energetic, spiritual reality supersedes the material reality in a sense. Not that they're not both one, they are, but that if you kind of had to pick one as the head, like the brain, it would be the spiritual, energetic reality.
The way I translate that, or the way I frame that, is... And quite literally, it's called the force field that any molecule assumes. And when the protein folds, which happens when it interacts with an enzyme or whatever, and it does a different function, when it folds, it magnetic or energetic field also changes. And as a result, it knows to not go there, but go over there. Right? Down the, right? It's just the energy. I call them energy tunnels because they so like there's only a certain tunnel that can get you home tonight. And I mean that, and you have some leeway and it'll be different, but consistently you will be going through that energetic.
But like,
tunnel.
it's not just the Wild West. There's that set of traps. There's that
because there's all, yeah, that's right.
Which makes it sound like the Wild West, but terrible analogy.
Because the city itself is a specific, organism, if you will, cultural organism.
City, I like thinking of a city as an organism, yeah.
Right, and that's why, like, things like, I mean, abortion is all connected to the contractual system of marriage and childbirthing and all that.
You never said anything about your beliefs on abortion when I brought it up.
Oh, I can
sidestep that whole thing.
This is the video I did. I can tell you exactly. I approach everything statistically. Okay.
Okay.
Something is an entity. This is my golden grail. Or how I build everything.
Some would say holy grail.
What did I say?
Golden grail. Nice alliteration.
Oh yeah, good. I'll take golden grail. It's all stolen though. That's why it's the golden grail is when you get all the gold back. Bigger than the holy grail.
Okay.
But in any case, where were we? Oh shit.
Abortion.
Thank you. Something I call an entity when it meets the first standard deviation, 68%. Mathematically, something is pronounced statistically significant. In statistics,
68%.
That's the first standard deviation, right? That's
high.
Was that
all the way up there?
All the way up there. The second standard deviation is 95. Third standard deviation is 99.95. So it, like logarithmically gets higher and higher, right? Okay. And then a scientific fact is pronounced at 99.99995 or whatever. Like there's a bunch of them, which is it's so consistent that might as well pronounce it fact. Even though there's some, just an electron can zip away from the atom, there's a statistical probability, but it's so consistent. Now,
right.
So which makes 68 actually quite low. That means that it's not quite an entity. 28? What's this 100 minus 68?
Hold on, what is this specifically again? 68%? You've lost me a bit, I'm sorry.
So when anything expresses itself in the world, 68 times out of 100.
Then it's considered an entity.
I consider it something that has agency in the world as an independent entity.
What would be an example of something that doesn't?
The birds fly through sometimes birds get lost and they fly through an area that they never really go to. But by and large, they fly down that track. Just like you. You might get drunk and try to go out the window tonight. So that would be statistical improbability.
No, that's all part of my plan.
Sure, but and then it'll be incorporated into that expression. See how often you do that, and then that becomes your reality. If you do that 68 times out of 100, then you're a window leaver.
Okay.
So that's the entity that
I see what you're saying. Right? Okay.
So
we're not just talking about entities, we're talking about behaviors.
Any expression of anything in the world. It could be in the material, biological, or cultural world. The three of the big God.
Oh, yeah, interesting. I thought we were talking about nouns, but we're talking about verbs too.
Anything, verbs especially.
Doings.
Processes.
Yeah, processes.
The functioning of the God around and within and everywhere, right? And so 68% is when something is statistically, and there's a formula of how that's derived. I'm not going to get into that. But in statistics, that's the holy grail of when things are considered, we can trust this. We can start, when they say studies suggest, that's usually above 68%, above the standard deviation.
Oh, really? When I hear that, I put it at like fucking 30.
Well, no, actually,
because the language makes me suspicious.
Yes, you know? I'm with you on that. This is where this is where the gray zones come, right? Right, because it's all about the percentages, right? So now the similarly, this is where I derive where I'm going to go now to abortion is, I'd like to define also the concept of statistical insignificance, which is something that is in the percentage on the other side of which is 20. What is it? 68 point, I never do the math.
That's going to be
68.2,
31 point something.
31.8.
Point 8, yeah.
Is it 31 or 21?
It's 31.8.
31.8. So it's basically a third. It's 2/3 and a third.
Yeah.
So this third, if
yeah.
something doesn't exist or happens only within the 100% minus standard deviation, it is statistically insignificant.
And so this is not the norm. Like
this is not the norm,
saying, yeah.
right? So
I can see where you're going with
okay,
this.
now I did an entire thing in my video that I just released on this.
Because they always bring up those more statistically insignificant arguments, right? Like,
which is fair if it's not happening. But what you and I are also shining a light, there's a lot of corruption and lying happening to begin with. So the statistics are not to be necessarily even trusted. Separate argument.
Sure,
but if we were to trust them, this is how it would work. But for me, when it comes to life, I follow again the great, George Carlin, who himself, called the big electron. It's like, when does life begin? Life is just a continuing process. I call it the big electron.
you talk like a...
Good. I'm a fan. So
am I. I don't follow him. I don't subscribe to his philosophy, but I love him.
Because I watched an interview when he was accused of being hard on this or that political party. He's like, no. He's like, and he worded it. He's like, when the people on the right go crazy, I call them out. When the people on the left go, I'm just here. That's the gigolo. That's what a gigolo does, right? But in any case,
he was unbiased. He certainly didn't have an allegiance to either faction.
Right. Right. Exactly.
He was his own man.
That's why I'm in that camp, because I want to watch the world, and this is the club that I want to start, is that I want to be surrounded by people who are not just going to take one area and then try to spread it onto everyone just because they believe in it.
Right.
But rather, if someone's interested, you can tell them about it, but you don't get to impose anything on anyone.
Yeah.
Or you have to be careful about it.
Well, it's not a club of followers by design.
Right.
It's a club of leaders.
Yeah, that's right.
Ideally. I'm assuming is where you're going.
It would have to be. There's no way around, because you have to negotiate.
We're talking about a bunch of cowboys here.
Exactly. Yeah, down south. But you would. This brings to the point of having to look at the problem yourself, which we said at the very beginning.
Yeah.
You have to.
And this ties into Terence McKenna's idea of the primacy of direct experience, that nothing trumps that, and that if you can figure something out for yourself, that is the best data you're ever going to get.
That's the closest thing to the truth, because everything else is somebody else's conclusion.
Because communication,
even if it's true,
communication only happens through language at the best of times. Let's assume the language is as accurate as it can possibly be. I may still have a completely different idea in my head of what you're saying than you do.
That's another thing. Yeah, absolutely.
But if I know how to interpret my own sense data a lot better than I know how to interpret anybody's way they use the English language, right?
Right,
which is inaccurate.
Absolutely. However, that is not to say that the way we think and discern necessarily arrives at what's really true. We could totally get sidetracked.
No, it's not to say that. People are wrong all the time. I'm wrong about things right now that I won't know until 10 years from now.
It's not the same thing, but it's the closest thing to where that, especially, this is what I say, this is why even with the flat earth, if I'm flying, if they send me a map of the flat earth and it shows that you have to fly over South America to get to Europe, and I'm flying and it's just ocean, well, where's South America?
Yeah.
No, but this is like this is the point. It's in my personal life where I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
Like, you're not just looking at what you're seeing with your eyes. You're taking the sum of your experiences and you're putting them together
with your own perception.
And you have enough things that I like that kind of thinking, because it's kind of like
it's called doing your own research.
It's almost like a lowest common denominator, Occam's razor kind of thinking, where you're just like, I'm not extrapolating at all. And this is how I try to navigate my life. Like, I have a ton of things that I believe quite possibly are true.
Right.
But what I actually base my actions and my decisions on, and the real, hard reality on, is what I absolutely know to be true. And I knew when COVID happened that no matter what was going on, and I had no idea what exactly was going on, but I know I'm not taking that fucking thing because I don't trust it.
Yeah,
and I know enough to know that I shouldn't.
I was like that. I was like that. I remember there being so much. What word to use? It was so, the whole thing is, there were so many red flags.
Oh, red flags.
Even though I don't know, I'm like, I just didn't trust it. Yeah, I just didn't trust it.
Yeah, there's a lot of red flags. Like anybody who's researched any psyop and knows about like groupthink and mob mentality or anything like that, you see COVID happening and you can see, okay, we are being pushed in a certain direction deliberately by a top-down authority. We've seen it before.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's so obvious.
We could go into other ones. Like I personally could, I have my opinions on the civil rights movement, on feminism. I don't think any of these movements were organic at all. Mm-hmm. These are top-down movements, and humanity is basically a top-down.
Probably started by some false flag to incite the thing.
Like if you just indulge me in a little story of the early feminist movement, there was a man called Edward Bernays.
Okay.
Hearing this story is what got me wise to how propaganda works in the modern world. You familiar with the name?
Cigarette guy, yeah.
Hey, you fucking know about it. Oh, man.
Of course.
That's amazing. So you know about the little stunt he pulled to get women smoking cigarettes then? Incredible.
Yeah,
so few people know about this, and it's such a good case study for understanding how modern propaganda works, because this is the father of modern propaganda.
Yeah, right, gotcha. Yeah. But it's funny because it's in the name of serving that globalistic system, as one would call. And many people love it, but do they love it? That's the thing. When it expresses itself in the real world, do they really love it? Because we're about to enter, this is my stance, but it's something that I'm noticing. We're about to enter the next 10, 20 years or 30 years of an entire generation of females, especially, who chose not to have children.
Oh, yeah. No, that's an undeniable fact.
Right. And how is that going to play?
Here in the Western world.
In the Western world.
Yeah.
And that's like, we're talking ages between 40 and 80, the next 30, 40 years. Right?
As in, like, the oldest they are is 40 right now for the most part. That's right. And we're going to see this next 40.
Right. The women who in the last, say, 30 years or 20 years since they became adults decided not to, and I think it's huge.
It's fucking absolutely huge.
So that's going to be the expression of how the West is going to play itself out, while, especially with the immigration thing that's happening.
I mean, there's a population replacement going on. People will say, if you talk about the Great Replacement Theory, you're a big anti-Semitic fuckhead. Well, I've got one card in my pocket for this one. I'm a Jew, cunts.
Right.
I believe in the Great Replacement Theory. It's obviously real. It's undeniable.
No, but they'll just classify you as a traitor, apologetic, or whatever word they can do, right? They're always twisted. I'm
not a traitor. I've got lots of Jewish friends. Okay, they all love me. Okay, you know what? I see them all the time. They accept me for my weird beliefs, even though they might not be on board with it. Okay, the Great Replacement Theory is an absolutely undeniable fact. There's a ton of propaganda been going on for 100 years to slowly push women in this direction of not having kids, massively increased immigration levels from the top down. We certainly didn't fucking vote for it.
No.
Right? No. It's not the people that came up with this.
That's why everyone's rising, right?
Like, well, okay, yeah, and this is going to play into another divide and conquer tactic.
So
this is all like a big game of chess, right? And there's no good move we can make right now.
I think it's the West is being sold out. They're being betrayed. The people of the West are
the West is becoming what the leaders of the West want it to be, which is a society of more compliant, less individualistic.
Oh yeah, you reap what you saw. Basically, they've created their own.
Well, they
made their own bed. They made their own bed.
Yeah, but the implication is that that's like a bad thing. But the people who here's the thing: the people who orchestrated this, it is a good thing to them, because if you are a ruler, if you are a lord, this is good for you. If you are a serf, which is what I would call anyone renting or anyone that doesn't have over $10 million in investments or liquid funds or whatever, you're no lord, you're a serf. And realistically, unless you have 10 million is a fucking stupidly low number. I'm speaking as if I were in the 1970s or something. It's way higher than that.
Fair enough, but even 10 million would... Well, yeah, you're
10 million doesn't make you a fucking lord. It makes you a landlord, but you're not a real lord.
It's some kind of a lord. It's a sub-lord.
Some low-level lord.
Which is still somewhat in the club, to some degree.
You're not full-on a serf. Your money makes your money for you for the most part at that point, but you're not necessarily...
As long as you play the game.
You're not necessarily part of, I don't know how many connections or favors you have. You may just be a good businessman, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
It's not a good enough number.
Hey, listen, question. Do you like bitter drinks?
I enjoy a sip from time to time. I guess I'll be taking the bus home tonight. I've already made up.
Oh no, this is not even much. This is something to sip on. This is like wormwood. This is good for the gut.
Is this absinthe?
It's Pelin. It's Pelinkovec. It's a good quality Serbian wormwood liqueur that is just
something I've never heard of, but I'm fully open to try.
You're gonna love it, but just get it ready. It's kind of like Jägermeister-ish, I guess. But
I've had absinthe before, and I like that. So.
You're gonna probably enjoy this, and try it, and then if you like it, I'll top you up a bit. But really, just sip it nicely. Here we go. Hey, cheers! Thanks for coming again.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. This is the kind of stuff that I fucking live for, honestly.
Yeah, same. I'm so glad.
So rare that it gets to happen like this.
Okay, before we should probably think of slowly starting to bring it down.
Okay, interesting.
You see?
It's definitely like one of those, more like aperitif.
Yeah, it's aperitif. Yeah, it's before.
Things, yeah.
It's to like warm up the gut, and I think they do use it to just kind of kill the parasites before food because they drink this stuff before meals in Serbia.
It tastes like some like ancient tradition or something. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm addicted to it, and then I was just there, so I bought 2 bottles, and I'm slowly going through them right now. I'm here right now.
And all sorts of crazy drinks I've yet to discover.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad.
I gotta get you on these mushroom ones once I get these things again.
A mushroom drink?
Yeah, no, there's 4 different kinds. They all have mild psychoactive effects, and I know because I had a sip of one at a farmer's market once, and then I got in my car, and I thought to myself, well, that wasn't supposed to be psychoactive, but it definitely is doing something.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah.
How much did you drink?
Just a little bit, just like this much, in like a tiny little cup or something. But it's quite potent tasting. I mean, you'll know that.
Really?
It's meant to be used like a liqueur, like you'll put like a liquor. Fucking sounding like a Porsche style douche right now. But you just take a little bit of that, put it in your drink. Like a shot here, a shot
I love
there.
that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
I gotta get some more of this because I kind of ruined it for myself by mixing it with gingeraki, this health tonic that is extremely strong tasting.
Gingeraki, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's like a turmeric ginger elixir that.
Wow, you've done your research too.
So just to give you a little bit of backstory, my parents are in the health food business. They've been in that business since I was a kid, so I know lots of weird. I know lots of what's good to eat.
That's very good.
Like I take care of my health. I try to, anyways.
Well, you better look into Pelinko. It's wormwood, but wormwood is basically a parasite killer root.
I've had wormwood before. I did not know that it was any kind of parasite killer. I thought it was purely for its psychoactive effects.
That's right. If you go to London Drugs, you get the kind of off the shelf on the back of the.
No fucking way! They got wormwood in London Drugs,
and for $20, a full liter
of
alcoholic drink.
Because I thought that it was like I don't know if it's the case in Canada because I know we have a distillery on Vancouver Island that makes genuine.
No, this is imported.
Absinthe.
This is imported from Serbia directly.
I still allow it to be sold.
Yeah. Because I guess it's labeled as medicinal.
What about in America though? I bet not.
I have no idea, but somehow it made it through on a medical level. There's another bottle, must be somewhere, I don't know, Slovenia or some North country, with a kind of red cross. I don't know what it is, but it's probably another medicinal thing that is right next to it there. And this one is the good. This one tastes nice, whereas the other one is a bit more lower grade. Let's call it. I'm gonna have a bit more. So abortion.
Yeah, all right.
I'm ready to...
Let's dive right into it. I haven't heard your side.
Well, back to George Carlin now. That's where we left off, I think. He made a real good point when he said that it's all one big, long process. Life is an ongoing thing.
Right.
It's just one thing that just keeps doing this and doing that and the other. Like, for example... Our bodies themselves are constantly creating reproduction by mitosis. Our cells are constantly dividing up.
Yeah.
Like just by the skin wears off, dandruff, whatnot, right? And then it gets replaced by new cells that are, and then it prevents it from going cancer, yada yada, right? Now, it's same thing is with the fact that there's living cells that a female is born with. I don't know how many, 1,000 of them or 100 of them. I can't remember the number. It's some number, right? And each one of those is a potential life, right? And a potential life, right? But it's already living. Now, a male sperm is created, I guess, in the moment. I guess, yeah. The sperm doesn't live around.
Well,
right
after 90 days, I understand it's reabsorbed.
Right. So there's a ready to go batch.
Oh yeah, there's almost a ready to go batch.
So that's the point. That's associated with a 90-day turnover, right? That's the crucial point.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, is that the process that creates sperm is an ongoing living process within a body, right?
Yes, of course, yes.
They're all living processes. Now, The moment when the sperm gets into the cell is another process.
Like when it fertilizes the egg.
When it fertilizes the egg, right?
Yeah.
It's another process. Furthermore, once that's fertilized, the cell can, through mitosis, break into two and create twins. Now, was the twin born when it was fertilizing? It was just one person?
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
But this is where I'm going with it.
I haven't heard that particular one before.
Well, I'm about to blow your mind then. So you have now that egg starts to now multiply at some point through mitosis. It's all mitosis, really. And in the process have differentiated cells that are going to create different tissues and organs eventually down the line, right? That's how it happens. Now, that's all still another process. Process after process after process. And my stance on when it is a living entity is it is not an entity until it reaches its statistically significant level of being a non-entity.
So that's why you brought that up. I see.
Which is the 28, what's the number?
68.2%.
No, the other side.
30.
32.
31.8.
31.8. Thank you. 31.8. Its non-existence is 31.8. Once it crosses that, now it's statistically not insignificant.
But it's not at that. Oh, okay, I see. So
it's the opposite.
Okay,
it's the opposite.
Right. Okay.
And from there on, and what's crazier, that's right after that is when they label it a fetus. So I would say fetus stage. Up until fetus stage.
How many weeks approximately? Is that?
About, I think is it a third. What's the total weeks? 9 times 4. What's 9 times 4? 36.
Yeah.
So it would be a third of that I think it's about 10 weeks. And not only that, once fetus is created, that's when the organs are created. The fetus's uterus, the child's children, it's going to start producing its own eggs. That fetus. And supposedly, was that?
If it's a female.
If it's a female, sorry. Yeah. If it's a male, it's different. But if it's a female, it'll produce its own. And supposedly it goes up to 1 million different, only, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 survive that live with the woman after. But supposedly it makes up to 1 million or millions of cells. So that's the point for me where there is extra life now that is being created that will be the next generation over. That's the point where you're like, okay, trolley problem, too many humans.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So for me, the stage under 28 I keep messing it up, 32.8%.
31.8.
31.8, sorry, 32% approximately, because it's 68 usually, right? They don't mind the number 2.
If it's 68.2 on one, then it's got to be 31.8 on the the other.
Right, but they usually just say 68%.
Okay.
So in which case it ends up being 32, just to truncate.
All right.
Right, so 32% approximately. If it's under that, I would say that abortion with kind of, especially because people get pregnant and humans are horny. They're horny. Look at the affairs. Even if it's not open relationships, affairs are through the roof. And
sure. I mean, that doesn't mean it's right, though.
But it happens. It's not a question of right or wrong. This is what I mean. The right or wrong is defined by the rules. The question is what it's happening. And humans are horny. And as a result, there's going to be unwanted pregnancies. And giving that one luft, as I call it, just one option right after. This is the morning after pill. Just because it had a unity doesn't mean that it's anywhere near to being a human. Grown 100% statistical significance.
No, in terms of early stage abortions, personally, I'm not one who's going to advocate against those in a big way. Now, do I think it's better to not be in that situation? Yeah. And I do think that the way that people treat sex is completely, for the most part, the way that people treat sex in the society in which I've grown up in, being, Western North America, pretty liberal society, I think that the way they treat it is like it's fucking candy or like some joke or like it doesn't matter. But it's an extremely consequential act. It's the creation of life, and I think that if you're going to have sex with somebody, you should accept the fact that participating in the act which creates life may in fact create life. And here's what bugs me about it.
That's the kicker.
Here's what bugs me about it is that whether we classify it as a life or not before 10 weeks, it's not really something I'm interested in debating because I don't know enough about it. And it's one of those things where, I direct my attention where it's most useful, right?
Right.
So it's not something that I dig deep into. But I do think that the fact that whatever is happening, the killing of something, whatever is happening, is a consequence of your lust for pleasure. And that's what frames it differently for me, is because I know a little bit about how the world works in the sense that, there are lots of easy goodies available to you at all times. And if you take them, they feel good in the moment and they hurt you later. Life is riddled with these little traps, right?
Right. But like having an intimate evening with between a man and a woman can be a wonderful thing, just in its.
Of course, it can be, and it's a wonderful thing as a consequence of the fact that it is the act which creates life, and there's that other side to it that you can't deny. You can deny it by just killing something and performing some procedure, but that's unnatural.
So what would you say then about? So what would you say then about the? And this is where you see the sliding scale of laws.
We're going to talk about birth control.
No, not even about prearranged marriages before the child is even possibly born, royal way. Which is there, she's sold off, and because what they're doing.
I don't know.
But listen, because that would aid in the direction of saving the life.
No, it wouldn't.
They're not saying that, because the point here being is that at which point is the life assigned? The responsibility for the life is assigned to a living human entity, right? So it's like who's making the decision, meaning, right? As in where this. Human is going to now be promised for. It has nothing to do about even being pedophilic about it. It's more about thinking bloodlines like far in advance.
No, I understand.
Not killing the life. You're so far in advance preparing that you already have a husband and a wife prearranged so that you know that every single life matters. Meaning as soon as she's ready, this is where one could say that Eastern ones are even worse because they're allowing for children to start having babies, right? You see how it's a sliding scale?
I've talked to Indian women who have been in arranged marriages and stuff, and I've given this some thought. And
right, but notice how it depends on how it works, because my predicament is, and this has always been on a biological level, which is humans are horny even outside of ovulation period. Right?
Of course,
because most animal world, this is ironically the Chris Ryan's work, who I haven't even thought about for years. Most of animal world is only horny during ovulation.
Yeah, no, I know.
Whereas humans are outside. So there's a biological reason which, to me, I'm convinced.
But humans aren't a natural animal.
It could be. We can blame it on the aliens for all I care. I'm totally okay with that. But the point is that humans, the guys are horny outside of when ovulation is happening, means that it's going to happen regardless. It's in our. It's built into our biology. It's in.
I don't think so. I don't think so because humans are part animal or part divine nature. Humans have the ability to go against their biology. I do it all the time. Fuck, every time you hold your pee in, you go against your biology. Why wouldn't you just piss right there? Why wouldn't I piss?
But eventually you piss. No, that's the point.
No, but eventually you do. But
that's the point.
The urge to have sex is less pressing than the urge to piss.
I don't think
agree on
so.
That? It definitely is.
No.
It definitely is. You're going to burst your bladder.
Of course. Well, then breathing is much more.
I've been in the hospital. I've almost had a catheter. I know.
Of course. It's a question of rate. So the rate of breathing is every 5 seconds. Rate of peeing is every.
Eventually, a person should have sex. Of course,
that's the point.
Yes, of course.
That's the
Ideally,
point.
Sooner rather than later, right? But under the wrong circumstances, the consequences are disastrous.
The irony is that especially in family homes where there's like a whole bunch of children, the sex usually goes out of the window. That's another side effect.
What do you mean?
Sex
for the parents,
especially for the mother. I think the mother's preoccupation is the children, and that's why the marital contract has. Well, if I'm not going to have sex with another woman, I'll marry you for the rest of my life and put the thing on. Then you have to put out when I'm horny, which is now the rape culture thing that they blame on the traditional system and the woke system.
That's a controversial subject,
right? But it's all connected. It's all completely.
I think ideally, it's good. Oh God! Like I should hope that one marries someone who wants to have sex with them. Like that's.
But
the way
if
that
it's
life
a name
should
of
be.
life, if it's in the name of creating life, which is more important whether you like each other. What's important in this, to your argument, which is that life needs to be created, because otherwise it's killing.
Well, I'm not saying that. Well, I mean,
But you've drawn your line there. Why don't you draw it at the point
I'm
of
more doing it
every cell, reproductive cell that comes out of a female body needs to be impregnated if possible. Otherwise, you're wasting a potential life.
I mean,
It's a living thing, isn't it?
so I kind of adopted this argument from the Christians a little bit. It also comes from my belief in like vegetarianism, but let me organize my thoughts here for a second. God, it's such a controversial subject to just go on like this. But I do try to define it in negative terms, as in like this is what you should probably not do, not so much this is what you have to do, right? Like I'm not compelling people to do things. I'm more saying like this is what you shouldn't do, and what you shouldn't do is sacrifice a child for your own sexual pleasure.
So what I want to propose in this framework is that every you should do and shouldn't do has its mirror opposite shouldn't do and should do. If that makes sense.
No, but I really don't see it that way. I really don't. I got to say, I think there's a huge distinction between compelling, coercion, or just saying, "Don't tread on me." You know, that's a very different thing. One is a negative right. One is a positive right. That's one way of thinking of it. As in, you do not have the right to attack me. I'm not telling you what you do have the right to do, but you do not have the right to attack me, you know, and that's the only kind of law that does exist in nature, and that's the only kind of law that should exist in the world of man, in my opinion.
Yes, the way I've divided this, I know what you mean, I agree with you. The way I framed it recently, actually, it's part of this, the video that I did recently, it was about two forces, is the yin and the yang, actually. It's the two forces. One of them is the laws that support liberty. Laws that are in the name of you having the liberty to what you do.
Like the Declaration of Independence.
For example. And then there's the... so that's the frivolous, the flowers opening world. Like the world's your oyster. The baby is born and can have anything type of world, right? It needs to be protected at all costs. The full liberty, 100%. Versus the other force, which is the masculine force, which is the order.
The limiter. Yeah.
So and they're always doing this. And for me, what I've come to realize is that I've started watching where the lines move. And in this case, I've watched the line of the responsibility switch from whoever might be soon or already is or whatever, a human being, to the parental, somebody who has agency in the world of living older already, right? So sometimes that switch gets switched between that order and liberty. And it starts off from, I'll own you. Our family is our royal family. We always marry within the families, inbreds, sure. But to the point of when they meet, in which case the parents want you to marry the engineer, all the way to the point of when even the woman as an adult has the full legal right to not have children at all until she can't have children anymore. Right? That's how, and that would be for me the liberal extreme in a way where it's allowing the flower to open up to such a point that there's not going to be any offspring. It's actually against the female body from that angle.
I mean, but they should have the right to not have children if they don't want to.
Yes, totally, of course.
But should they not have children? That's a totally different. They probably should. I mean, if they can.
So, but notice
somebody has to.
So to speak to what you were just defining, that's why I see them as two forces, which is the order that wants the order of having children will impose onto the feminine while it's still young or before it's even born to create that order to procreate. Whereas allowing the freedom is going to pull the order away so that the female can just not be in the name of procreation, but rather just liberty itself.
But let me ask you this. Do you think that in a vacuum, other factors aside, freedom is what has caused women to have children at a later age or not have them at all?
Yes. By the sheer design.
Interesting. Yeah, I would take a different path.
No, hang on. Not only that. And this goes for that, what I said, operant condition, and there's an opposite thing. Because it's not just about the woman having the right to not have the job. The order always exists, it's just pulled. But the order in this case says, you shouldn't have a child that young. What are you kidding me? It's just in the general zeitgeist. It's in the human in the
right
human
now where we live.
ethic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But that's the other side. It's just like nobody forced you to take the jab.
Oh well.
Right? No, but notice they're saying it is, and
that
it's
was
true.
way more forced.
But right,
not having
so
children.
there's always an order glooming around that is pushing you towards it, even though because it's designed that way, right?
No, there's definitely these are two pushes from
Right.
the same
So that's how I would see
yeah.
it. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just adding to the fact that there's this. You have to see where the line is, and that happens. And this is why I make it in traffic. It's the same, except that the line is within seconds long. Here it's like courting system. You have to meet the girl, and then she gets pregnant. Oh my God, right? And all of a sudden, whereas in the traffic, it's just a matter of crossing a red light. It's quick. It's a decision making in the moment.
Yeah, and there's also like not a ton of variables. Like it's a fairly closed system.
That's right.
We know it's on the road. It's cars.
But my argument is that there are ethical systems nevertheless functioning with different complexities of order, if you will.
Yeah, and I agree, but I do think when a system gets to a certain level of predictability, it becomes much more a mechanical system.
Fair enough, and then you can just trust it.
Yeah, it just doesn't enter into the areas of spirituality and morality as much, right? Like we don't get have to talk about
I think
God
it does.
to talk about
I think
how
it
a road
does. If
works,
somebody
right?
I think it totally does. If somebody started driving around town and crossing red lights, they would be on the news tomorrow.
Yeah, no, of course, and that would be morally irresponsible. But the reason we have the laws, I mean,
that's the ethical
interesting,
element.
though.
That's the ethical element.
I mean, we all have the ethical, but it's also very
as you're told. You
it's
have
just
to
as
follow
selfish as it is ethical on the road, though, because the whole reason that I don't want people to die on the road is so that I don't die on the road, right?
Of course, and that's the same jab. That's why you have to take the jab to protect grandma. It's the same. That the complexities underneath is super complicated. But
on the road, I follow the laws not just to protect grandma, to protect myself.
It's just it's different.
Although I guess they tried to play that narrative with
the needs, the distribution of needs and whose needs are tended or not are just they vary. But the ethical decision is on making whether we should go left or right.
Well, let's call it really basic ethics versus really complex ethics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the road basic ethics.
I'll take that. I'm happy with.
Once we start getting into abortion, though. There's all sorts of so many more arguments that can be made,
but what's interesting is it's still what's binary system? What is it? It's polarized.
Polarity.
No, but
duality.
There's a duality. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's dualistic still, which is Christians. They're when the sperm meets, that's when it starts. That's when it switches.
That's what they say, yeah.
But notice how that's 0 and 1.
Well, they do have an argument for that, though, that is...
But for me, it is between 0%, and... don't wait until 32%.
Yeah.
Do it in the first percent. Take the morning pill. It just started. It's not even like the roads ahead. It's as good as the cell that just was a day ago. Just the fact that there's a union and there's stuff mixing inside is no different with the fact that they were already existing, and maybe you should have already made sure that they meet, which is the real traditional stuff. Sell the person before they're born argument, which is as soon as she's ready, let's go, children. That's the whole Disney movies premises. They want to marry off the prince just as much as the princess. Both of them are under pressure to create progeny. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that there is a reason why people who pursue spiritual exploration to the nth degree often come to celibacy or strict monogamy.
I can see that.
I think there's a reason it goes that way.
Why?
Having taken that path myself.
Yeah, why?
Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of backstory. I grew up in the most liberal way possible, believing that, there's nothing wrong with porn, there's nothing wrong with sex, there's nothing wrong with masturbation. Do it all as much as you possibly can. Go enjoy yourself.
No, I mean extremes again, but sure.
Extremes, right. But let's just put it this way: there were no guardrails. Women were willing.
Oh wow! Right.
Let's just say, they're not protecting themselves for marriage, right? Not in the world in which I grew up in any case. But I do think that once you think it through to its conclusion and you traverse these thought trains, you get to the point where the idea of you can really feel the conflict between your animal and your higher nature, and there are choices to be made, because obviously my animal nature would say, well, So what if this girl's been celibate for 8 years, saving herself for marriage? I want to fuck her. She wants to fuck me. I know I'm probably not going to stick around, but it's going to be a beautiful night. Let's go for it.
But what if she was a girl who just wanted to just have fun? Or is that non-existent?
You know, I'm not the man who knows everything about women, but I have had, you know, the experiences that a 31-year-old man has had, you know. And,
Hey, don't get me wrong. I am of the thought that it's way more complicated than we give it to, especially in the female world, because it is her that
I think
ends
they're
up
more
with the
aware.
pregnancy.
They're more aware of the emotional ramifications, whereas men don't have to
Well,
be as aware of
because
that.
they literally are receiving. There's an entity inside of them that is
Yes.
now creating something, whereas
And-
a man has already shot off.
They also just
Right.
feel emotions stronger.
Yeah, it's a completely
than men
different
do,
world.
and they're much more sensitive. People take as
So
much
your
issue with it as you
proposition
want,
would be
but
the
they're-
out of consider. Was that?
I'm just saying that the women are much more emotionally sensitive than men, and that when it comes to the ramifications of sex, I believe that women are also
Yes,
more
I
sensitive
agree.
to those
Yeah.
than men. And I think that if you're highly empathetic, then you're wise to what's going on there, and you know that even though a woman may just try to convince herself she's there for fun, in reality, she's going to be very disappointed when all that sex happens, and then you have to part ways, and she has to be alone again, and she has no child or no family.
Why would she part way though?
Because, I mean, well, if I'm speaking from my personal experience, you know, the times recently, this last year, where I've been dating a woman and decided that I couldn't follow through with intercourse because I don't think that it's just the right thing to do given my disposition. I mean, I don't see myself marrying her. I know she wants to have a family. I
see.
she's been waiting for waiting
Oh, I see.
celibate
It
all
wouldn't
these
be.
years.
It
You
would
know?
be fair towards her.
No, absolutely not.
But what if you?
But I don't think it would be good for me either.
But what if a
Personally.
girl? No, I agree with that. If you actually know that that's not what she's looking for, and you want to lure her just to have fun.
But the thing is,
But what if you meet a
people
girl who
convince
just was
themselves of all
picking you
sorts
up?
of things.
But what if a girl came and picked you up and she's like, I want to get it on? What would you
I
do?
am going to reveal how much of a sexist, misogynist man I am right now. I'm going to reveal it to the world. You know,
Sexist,
Take
in
this-
what way?
I am beforing the argument that I assume people may make when they're liberal and see this. If that makes any sense to any forum dwellers out
No,
there.
I'm not
But
understanding. I'm losing you.
What I'm saying is that men and women are different, and men and women have different roles. And I believe that men have to look out for women, and this somewhat puts them. Some people may see this as putting women below men, and if they want to conceptualize it that
No,
way,
it's actually opposite.
go
what
ahead.
You're saying.
You know,
It's what you're saying is actually opposite.
what do you think?
Well, because you're saying is that you're actually attending to the fact that for the just because.
Yeah, but it's almost like a
Just
benevolent leader that
No,
cares
no,
about.
Of course, this is ironically Peterson's meek sword, quite literally.
Peterson's meek sword.
Yeah, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Oh, okay.
Right? He did a whole thing. Like his explanation was meek doesn't mean weak.
Oh, I have heard him say that.
Right, remember that this is that. This is what you're saying is that you're recognizing that, I mean, in the context, is that you're recognizing that for guys, it's just easy. You can just go and have some fun. But you're
It's a lot
recognizing that
easier.
for them, it's a different story. And you're doing it
It is.
in the name of the fact of recognition of that it's not as simple for them, rather, which is a selfless act.
I'm looking at it as the whole thing
Yeah,
together
okay,
because
fair
at the end, all is one, right? And I know you
Fair
know
enough.
this.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, but humans are horny creatures. And it's not.
they are, but it doesn't
what-
excuse bad behavior. You know?
So-
Humans are hungry creatures, too. I don't steal people's food. You know, like-
How long do you think a male should go without having sex?
in my ideal
Before
world,
you think it's unhealthy?
people are gonna take all sorts of issue with this probably, but I think that in an ideal world in which society is functioning as it should, you should be married off and having sex by 18 to 20.
No, that's not the question. Is that if you were not to have the ability to have sex for whatever reason, at which point do you think it would be like it's now unhealthy for your system
Not to have the ability?
to not have sex? Yeah. How long do you think? Like, would it be like a month, 3 months, a year, 10 years, a lifetime?
I think, well, it kind of goes back into what I just said. Like, I think at a certain point in a man's life, it is natural to start having sex. And I think, I don't want to say like 2 younger ages. Obviously, we hit puberty younger than we become adults in today's society. But I
Yeah.
do think by at least like, if I'm going to go as low as possible in like a perfect society where 16-year-olds are getting with other 16-year-olds,
Yeah.
people will take so much issue with this. But I'm saying like 16 to 20, you should begin having sex and you shouldn't stop, and you should find your partner. And that's an ideal world. So anything less than that is unideal, right? So me being in my 20s or now 30s and,
So you're saying that the older you get, the less sex you should or need to be having?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Oh, no.
No.
So...
I'm saying that you shouldn't have to live a life without sex, but because the world is rife with all sorts of traps, you may have to make that decision because it's so easy to make a misstep and have sex with the wrong person.
You're better off withholding for the sake of a better outcome.
Until you find a person that you can be monogamous with and have that person as your partner that will protect your energy. Yeah. This is what I believe, yes.
Right. So what would happen, say, like imagine somebody gets into a relationship where they have like 4 children and the sex goes out of the window, the guy doesn't have sex for like 5 years.
I think that's an unideal situation. That is
no, but I think that happens a lot. But what
does happen a lot.
What would be the ethical right thing for that guy to do from these frameworks?
The best thing that I think a person can do is really spend as much thought as you possibly can on picking the right partner because it's the most decision you'll ever make and you're going to be stuck with that person,
The kids take it out. This is why they make you do the vows at the altar.
Yeah.
In sickness or death, because it's all glory, and roses and
at the beginning, and
but that's why they call it the honeymoon, right? But the reality is that once this is where I'm like, it's how does the actual idea express itself in the real world?
The thing is that there are partners that do go their whole life having great sex lives. It is also possible. You don't hear about that as much because it's all pessimism in that department these days. That's the messaging. But
I think my take on this, now having had a kid, is the isolation of trying to raise children in isolated apartments in cities.
Well, this is unnatural.
But this is where I'm going. It's outlining, I don't know how it would have happened back in the gossipy villages, but the bottom line is that it's creating an environment where it takes the women out by large. They're just underslept and under-resourced.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way because we should, as you said, the support of the broader family. The natural way for it to be is multi-generational
that's a fascist
living.
Thing, right?
It's absolutely fucking not.
It's not.
It's so ridiculous. Fascist.
But this shows...
is every Chinese person a fascist? I thought they were communists. They all live in multi-generational homes.
This exposes the divisive nature of these narratives that float around.
It's ridiculous. It's not even worth
giving it credence.
It's so ridiculous, and I should hope that the people watching this podcast aren't at that level. And I think I know that they're not, because you're not going to end up on this.
That's the club.
Down there.
This is where I start the club. For me, you're in the club of these conversations, or you're running some other thing. Like for me, it's like if you're, and I mean this, like if you're anyone who's in the world of extreme any religion and running the scripts and ethical memes of their books, and they come into my world. I'm in between all the ethical.
I can never subscribe to that either.
Right. So for me, I'm just aware of the fact that by design we might be incompatible with being able to coexist because we might grind each other. It's
a different kind of person. Like, I see the utility in the belief system, and what I'll say about religion, even though I do believe it was designed to hold humanity back, I think that where humanity is right now is in such a sunken state. It's hilarious, and this is why we see the whole fucking return to the right and everything. Religion's actually starting to look kind of good compared to what we have, which is fucking sad.
That's crazy.
It's sad.
Well, that's why I'm like, even with Kirk's passing, they're coming on, he's like, I need to make a confession. And I'm like, why is now everything like 100% Christian religion of making confessions over this stuff? Like and I'm realizing because there's no entity, there's no independent entity. Because these big guns are so good with their billions and trillions of running the shows around that the people underneath are just kind of swimming around.
Yeah.
Without the potential energy, if we want to talk a mechanical term, or kinetic energy, any kind of energy, to be able to lift above the control above. Because, and I think the way to do it, as I've said, is to keep it within a tribal number. Where you have your own posse, where people are simply respectful of each other, regardless of what creed or minority or.
I also believe that, and I think that one of the best things that somebody could do, and why I have to talk to Jay about his this organic farming operation that he's got going on. I so would love to see that, you know, because I've often believed that, you know, I would start one of those, and I have so many friends and family that are waiting to join me. They're just waiting for somebody to take the reins.
They're making it happen.
I love that. I have to see this because I know there are those who came before me. Like,
yeah,
I got to reach out to them. Yeah, I'm so bad at like reaching out to friends. I always wait for people to reach out to me, but like, that's the only reason this happened.
Yeah, stay in touch. I mean, sometimes
I'm such a bad initiator. Like,
sometimes right. Yeah,
with friends. I mean, I have so many friends, and that's like
it's really a matter,
such a wide circle.
It's a matter of who sticks for how long at any given point. I really see like as much, you know, Simon, I am a rock. You know, I'm an island. We are technically islands. I since COVID, especially when we did the, I mean, you were not part of this, but I organized an entire network.
Oh man, I wish I could have been. I was part of another network, but we had our underground little operations.
Those are the pods.
My aunt actually organized it, and I'm the one who radicalized her.
It's good to keep the conversations going.
She had a great. She was at like fucking right by City Hall. She had a big basement suite, you know, her and my uncle, and they had this porch attached to the living room, attached to the dining room. It was such an amazing party house, and all sorts of musicians and, you know, speeches. And we had people in the restaurant industry who would sneak us in with fake passes and everything. We'd have private functions, and like it was such a cool time, honestly. Like
right on. Yeah, same here. And it was human. That's another thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing that pains me about the truckers movement, because it's gotten painted as this total like negative event. Meanwhile, it was probably one of the most humane things.
That's one of the only movements I've ever seen that I actually don't think was co-opted.
No,
like, I think
it was came from the people.
I think that movement was actually genuine. It would have been.
It would have. Inevitably.
Yeah, but it got shut down so quickly.
And it did by describing it the way it was. That's where they took.
They rewrote it the way they wanted it to sound.
But I remember we were on the streets, and this one kid was sitting there and watching the masses just in Vancouver. Speaking of millions, you know, and he was like this, and he looked at it. It's like he goes, "I thought I was the only one. I thought I was crazy."
That's how everyone was meant to feel.
And then and people came out, and all of a sudden, okay, like what's going on? What's going on?
No, I felt great. I honestly, that was a great time for me. Like everybody else was going through the worst time of their life. I was like, this is what I've been preparing for. Like I thank God I'm not crazy. You know, like
yeah.
I mean, I always had faith I wasn't crazy, but it was really just extra, way more proof than I ever would have needed. It's just like, okay, this is undeniable. Like, this is going to give me the leverage I need to tip the normies, right? But somehow I fucking didn't for half of them. I'd half of my normie friends.
So hang on.
I bet they're here. The other half I couldn't.
Hang on, you're actually having progress here.
I have had progress, yeah. See, I was into this conspiracy stuff. Okay, let me just think, like, back in my early 20s, I worked with a friend of mine, I won't say his name. I would always talk into his ear to the point where he'd be like, dude, just shut up, I don't care, I don't want to think about these things.
Exactly, why bother me with
this? You know, and I got it, I never gave up, but in my idea, I was like, it's a lost cause, I'm just doing it for, you know, cathartic sake, right? Like, but then, you know, lo and behold, now he's dating an unvaxxed chick. He's probably going to marry her. You know, he's fully on board with all of this. He sends me messages every day, and I'm just like, I hope you know, like, that I told you this shit 6 years ago. And he'll be like, oh, yeah. Look, and he consciously doesn't remember it, but it went
because
in.
It's amnesia. We live in an ADHD amnesia world right now. People just forget.
I think the subconscious does most of the heavy lifting in life.
Oh my God! Yeah, they don't even know. It's like Click, the movie.
You don't know most of the things that drive you.
I don't think. I think you belong in the conspiracy world. I don't think that's what I would refer to. I just really want to
conspiracy world.
No,
see, I really like to own these controversial terms. You know, that's why I overly take it.
No, but that's not what I mean. I'm because for me it's about classifying and compartmentalizing, right? So know what means what, and for me, the world of conspiracy theory is the world of flat Earth. And
no, not to me, not at all. Though I hate that, man. They fucking.
This is why I don't want to name it that. Term, because
right?
But this is where I'm going.
I can't keep running. They're just going to keep doing it.
Fair enough.
Like, where does it end? Until I have no words left to describe myself, and I'm just picking obscure words. Why can't I just call something what it fucking is? A conspiracy is a conspiracy. It has a definition.
But that's why...
Right? When business interests converge...
That's okay, so like, your argument here is that that's literally what it is.
I like to refer to words as what they are.
Okay.
Like a man and a woman. Like, if we can't use our fucking terms anymore,
so what would you call the people who believe in flat Earth? What name? Because I want.
We can call them conspiracy theorists. They just happen to be wrong. Their theory's wrong.
Oh,
they are a conspiracy theorist. Their theory's just wrong.
How do you know yours is right?
Well, the way I like to think about things is my minimum viable truth is kind of the truth that I go with. I kind of like to shave things down to what I absolutely know to be true. So, like, we can take something like COVID, for example, and, like, I mean, where do I fucking start as to knowing that I'm right for not taking the jab? I mean, first of all, just the way it looks like every other psyop, the way that every institution across every country in the world, all these supposedly warring countries with different interests, are all somehow doing the same thing at the same time, right?
The point is, by now, one should be starting to notice the patterns.
Well,
that's the argument. That's the argument. They keep happening.
The only way you don't notice them is if you don't want to notice them or have no interest.
Okay.
Right, if you look at it and you have an interest,
and the point is, they're happening. They're just being ignored. It's not like you're inventing them and you're this kind of like cuckoo.
No. But what benefit is there to the average person to believe in this stuff, right? Like, if you look at humans that are mostly self-serving creatures, if I'm going to university and I all of a sudden decide that I'm going to be a Jordan Peterson fan 10 years ago, what good does that fucking do me? I can't date. I can't go to the parties. Everybody fucking hates me. Why am I going to believe that? Why do I even want to consider that? What if I end up liking it? I better just stay away from it, or I'm not interested in it.
Which makes it just purely tribal.
Yeah, basically. I mean, yeah.
And that's what I'm doing, is I'm creating an independent tribe from it all. That's my point. It's an independent tribe, meaning it's kind of like, think of two
and I'm
cancers,
down with that, yeah. Fuck.
Two cancers fighting each other, and you create a little pod of security in between. And then you define the terms. That's why it's a club of its own. And you have mechanisms in there to prevent it from getting co-opted and destroyed. Not destroyed, co-opted and captured, and turned into something that it's not.
I mean, the essence of it would be destroyed. Its carcass would live on in some fucking possessed zombie-like form, fulfilling a different agenda.
Which is what I thought the Pride thing looked like.
That's what
it was
Greenpeace
like this big.
Became. That's what the climate movement became as well.
All of the hashtag movements.
That started off as a genuine movement. It was like, hey, let's respect the earth.
But the crazy thing about this is the part that really bends my head is the fact that each one of these movements that you can hashtag.
That's a strong liquor.
Oh yeah, for real?
The taste is definitely different from my palate.
Right. Well, happy to oblige. These are all the heads as tenets of the WHO big, what do they call them? Big goals. The big, if you go to the WHO website, there's about 13 of them or something.
Yeah, they're objectives.
The objectives. Yeah. And these are all expressions of those. And this is why I'm in total bewilderment of how everyone's pretending like you're out of your mind to believe in these globalists, where all of those tenets are expressed in our life as we speak of them right now.
If you think things
if you're paying attention to
you have to think things through. You have to have a certain amount of curiosity, to be honest. And if you don't have that, or you're
that's the point. Some people are just not temperamentally curious.
Yeah, no, I think it is a temperamental thing because as a kid, I always wanted to know how things worked. Like if I hear some techno, this is why I love live techno. Like make it in real time. I'm going to show you my setup someday.
You do live techno?
I try to. Yeah.
Really?
Me and you haven't connected musically at all, other than me just listening to your amazing band. But at some point, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. But I'm not a professional. I'm just obvious though, so it's going to be a little more ramshackle. But I have a whole vision, man. I have a whole vision for a way to make live techno. Point being, I like to see the behind the scenes, I like to see how things work.
Yeah.
I love to see the twiddling of the knobs and the playing of the keys. Wow. I saw live jazz last night for my birthday. I got a table right in front of the piano so I could see everything his hand was doing.
This is why I've kept it in the acoustic world. Even more than electronica. It's all acoustic wooden instruments.
Yeah, and I love that.
And
I'm trying to get that vibe.
You're doing that with
electronica, right? Because I want it to be so real, so fucking live, right? Like yeah, no, I haven't. Yeah, you got to meet my friend Evan as well. He just texted me to jam today, but
let's hang out. Like I'm
once I get my new place, bro, I'm gonna set up. And this living room is actually big enough for it to be sick. I'm gonna set up. I just want to have. This is part of the reason I'm willing to pay more rent is because I want. It's like you with wanting to make a club. I want to have a place where I can gather.
But
people.
That's where the expression of the club. The club is wherever it expresses itself.
Yeah.
Which is anywhere. That's how you make it global. It's just not globally centralized.
But it's just so hard to find a place where you can just
Yes.
fucking have, like,
Yes.
you basically need somebody who rents or owns
Yeah.
a property that
Yeah.
has a place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know,
Yeah.
it's shitty weather 9 months of the year for the most part here in this part of
and
the world.
otherwise
right?
it's a rental, right? And but that's the thing is, but
laneways are the fucking secret here.
It is, but you can also, the thing is for us, we've had a kid, so that's really thrown a monkey wrench in the operations. But hosting is just really a matter of just gathering a bunch of people in a little circle.
Well, I don't have a kid. I probably won't for a while, and I'm
Right.
going to try and host some amazing
I'll
gatherings,
come down,
to
I'll
which
bring
you
my
will
guitar.
certainly be
I'll
invited.
bring my
yeah.
guitar.
I'd love if you brought your guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be
Hey, listen,
incredible.
we're going to talk about plans for partying. Dude, thanks so much for coming down.
Incredible talk.
We'll continue again. Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
any other last words?
All I'll say is that the primacy of direct experience. You may not be right, but that shouldn't stop you from thinking for yourself.